All right, hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 10 of The Crackdown. Today we have returning guest Crownshot from 10th place Vitality in the EU LEC. You know, I had to do it to you. So,
and LS's streams probably have more viewers than Vitality games, really.
True, LS's streams as well. Getting roasted 1 minute into it. You know how it works on The Crackdown.
It's all right. I can take it, guys. Don't worry.
Good. So we have you here. I mean, you're actually a really good guest for these types of shows because you watch LCS and obviously LEC and compete in LEC, so you have a lot of perspectives. You even watch a little bit of Korea as well.
Yeah.
So definitely a lot to talk about here. We had a ton of series, but before that, I would love to talk about just like your position that you were in the offseason, right? Because coming off last season with SK when we were talking to you, a lot of the community perception was about how the bot lane was the strength of that whole roster, and you guys ended up unexpectedly making playoffs, had a weak spring, and then in summer you guys leveled up, made playoffs. You and Limit were getting most of the credit for that, so to a lot of people's surprise, you weren't on a starting roster. How much of this was just like teams that you wanted to play for, like those deals ending up falling through, or how much of it was like you not wanting to sign to like specific teams? Like, how did you end up in the situation where you were teamless in summer or after summer?
Well, yeah. So after that split, I felt like I could explore my options in the off season, right? And what happened was, if I wanted to stay in SK, then I would have to extend my contract before I could pretty much talk to any team. So in my mind, I just felt like it was time for a change after 2 years in SK in the same environment. I felt like it was time for a change, so I chose to explore my options, and I was talking to quite a lot of teams, but the deals just fell through in the end because of different reasons, and then I guess SK just went with someone else, and yeah.
How much of this was because like you didn't think that SK was going to be able to like put together a competitive roster? Was that factored in? Because it seems like SK ended up going full developmental, right? Like they have Blue, they went for jungler coming from regional links, tanks. Yeah, like Treats is essentially a rookie in LEC. I mean, they're all rookies outside of Gen X essentially.
I believe he said some detail, like part of the problem with SK was like that they wouldn't, like he had to it's something mad, like they needed him to sign before he knew the roster or something crazy, right?
Yeah, they wanted me to commit to the team without knowing who would be support if Limit left, and I knew there's a high chance he leaves. So in my mind, support is very important for my own role, and so like I wanted to know, and
that could have been a hilarious predicament, though. Like, they just make you sign, and then boom, you got fucking Jack Troll. Like, it's like he's coming back to Vitality. He makes his return, you know? Like,
yeah, I mean, so like, in that was like the main, like, in the sky, I knew there's gonna be changes. I knew a lot of the roster would change, and coaching stuff too and stuff, to a certain degree, and I just wasn't sure because obviously I enjoyed playing with Trick very much, and I enjoyed playing with Limit. So that was very important to me, and I knew that would change. So I just didn't want to like sign before I know anything, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it. I was talking to a lot of teams from a different region as well, and they just fell through towards the end, I suppose. So
is there a way we can get any juice? Does it have to just still be just some teams? Could you not hint at one?
I think
one of them was CLG, right?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I was told by,
keep going.
I mean, I was told by a team that I'm pretty much for sure in, but then it just changed a second. But
TSM, of course.
I can't get in. No, I can't get into it. Maybe in a few months, but I don't want to get into it now. Maybe in a few months.
Fair enough.
It sounds good. I mean, I guess the surprising thing then was it felt like you've like built yourself up enough where you have options. You know, most pro players, it feels like if they're not currently playing pro or they're in a regional league, they're just kind of doomed. But at least for you had the option of going to Korea with Nemesis and LS and you know, kind of like taking more part of the streaming angle and, you know, being very like I guess like picky in which deals you decided to accept. What made you want to jump back into like LEC so quickly? Also, like with a team that, you know, was struggling so hard that, you know, could potentially like if it went poorly, like devalue you in a way. Like what made you want to jump in halfway through the spring split?
Well, one of the things was just watching LEC and seeing so many like rookies joining in. I just felt like most of them were like, I felt like the level of play from a lot of teams wasn't that good. And I mean, I don't know. I guess when you're away from competitive, it makes you miss it more. It's a bit different in like off season when there's nothing to do, and then when the season starts and you watch people play and stuff, kind of
It's like the fear of missing out, right? The famous quote people say. It's like, if someone arranges a party and you say you don't want to go. If you're still doing nothing at 8 p.m. and you know they're all at the party, you think, fuck, maybe it'd be all right if I was there,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just felt like a lot of the gameplay I was watching from some of the rookies and stuff and wasn't that good. And I felt like I'm better than a lot of ADCs. So I was like, sure, I can join a team and show that, even though obviously community perception was horrible at the start. Like I was getting flamed left and right from people in my DMs under every Twitter post for joining and stuff. But yeah.
Why though? On what angle were they flaming you like?
I mean, I guess I just replaced
Comp
the player.
fans.
Yeah, I mean,
I
replaced the player they liked, and I guess they
Okay.
didn't like the idea of that. So I guess they just
Was it harder than you expected it to be? Because that was something that I like. I mean, I had a similar thing where I joined a team in my career after being like on a team that was significantly better, and for me it was just like amazing the level of like problems that like were occurring in my team. Did you have the same type of thing where you thought that you could probably, or you thought that things would probably be like in a better state than they were when you joined?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much I can get in, but I did feel like the energy or was a bit low when I joined, even though we were like 1-6 at the time, and then I guess we went 0-2 against like SKXL, I believe. I only had like 3 days of screens, maybe 2. But I mean, I just told them that like they shouldn't really feel sad, that they should feel more angry that they were obviously losing to people they believed they were better than, right? So it just felt like maybe it was like because of they were mostly rookies and inexperienced. They probably took the losses a bit too much to heart, right? Because I've personally been in situations where I don't know, I had like bigger loss streaks. I think in a spring I had like 8 or something, and then in summer it got better. So I just told them that it doesn't really matter how bad it looks. They can obviously improve. Like the team can get better just for one change or just for one meta shift or just 1 week. You kind of click and then everything's better. So I just kind of tried to tell them that. But yeah, there were some things that were new to me from joining this team. I think every team is a bit different, right? Because team personalities are so different and coaching staff and culture. So the problems can change, right? From team to team.
8 officials in a row to lose is fucking brutal, though. Like what about if you've been on teams that have lost that many? But it's still a lot. Have you ever had? What about in scrims? Have you ever had scrim sessions where you just lose like 10 games or something?
I've had that. I've had that.
Yeah. I mean, in like before spring 2020, we had like it was horrible win in scrims. It's like 10% for a full boot camp, so it was really bad. So I guess it was like a sign of things to come. That's why that spring was that bad. But then in summer it got better, so everything was better. I don't remember my spring like how long our lose streak was. I think it was like 7 or 6. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean for sure, like it can get like I remember in 2020. I think I can talk about that a bit more because it's a bit more distant, right? But I remember like we just lost a game and we were like driving home and I saw most of my teammates, either some of them were just laughing about us losing and some of them were just like resigned, but I got really mad inside and angry because like how is this acceptable, right? That you're losing games and it seems like you don't care, right? But
Even the way they're laughing, it's like when you say that, you mean they were trying to do it as though like it's just no big deal, like downplay. I mean, I'm assuming they're not just laughing like fucking Joker maniacally.
No, I mean they were.
It's amazing. I'm losing 7 games in a row.
I mean, yeah,
they were like. Holy fuck.
I mean, they were laughing at probably stuff on Twitter. I don't know, but maybe just people have different ways of coping, right? Or
yeah, some people are bitches.
Yeah, you've had to cope a lot this season.
I mean, I've been coping for a while. Yeah, but
he's been on that copium.
I mean, for sure, it was very weird to me to see that, because in my mind, like, it's completely unacceptable to be losing that many games and not play more. Like maybe people had issues with motivation and stuff, but I don't know, it was very surprising to me, but I guess people are different in that regard.
I mean, I will also say some of those players probably aren't even in fucking LEC anymore. I hope they're all laughing us off way to their ERL, wherever they are. You know, enjoy, boys.
Enjoy. They're not.
Good. We got rid of them then. The filter worked. We got rid of the trash. Now we can bring in some more rookies that are probably trash that aren't Crownshot. And then when they find out they're bad, maybe Crownshot could join another team next year.
No, SK is literally just the right now.
They just farm people, mate. They farm ERL players and just gamble on them. They're not. Here's the thing, right? I should have made this video in the off season, but I'll get on and make it soon. Basically, SK was one of my number one ones. Like, in my opinion, them and Schalke, get ready, because since Germans run these teams, they are running them like their businesses, guys. So they're not going to try and just win by getting the best players. What they're going to do every year is get good players, and if the player's good, sell them. And if not, they're going to get more rookies and hope one of them turns into a good player. And if one of them, if somebody returns in their career, like IWDominate, they'll sell him. If it's someone like Crownshot, you have to sign for less, so you get fuck all. If it's a rookie, they'll just go to a better team anyway. So these teams will just be farm teams the whole time they're there, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Don't ever expect to see a big name for you.
I was going to say, like,
squads.
You don't even know if Schalke is going to fucking sell players or if they're just going to sell the whole fucking team at this point. Because, you know, when we saw some of the stuff that they said earlier this split, it looks like things might not go super well with them with their, like, one of their teams getting relegated. In football, I'll say, because European viewers are going to come from ahead.
Anyone who's an investor, unfortunately, is a big sports team for obvious reasons, is potentially in trouble anyway. And then, yeah, if they do even worse in the actual game, it's just going to be like the first thing you're going to cut is your fucking esports team.
Yeah,
I don't care what fans think.
What do you think about this? Like this, you know, narrative that's going on in the community, Thorin, where you have these teams that are like backed by professional sports teams, like GoldenGuardians, for example, that now are saying like, oh, we have to go with like a budget roster because, you know, Corona like screwed our sales. Do you completely buy that as like, oh, that's legitimate? Like now, like you just don't have the money, so you have to end up like putting together these super budget rosters? Because for me, I feel like it's kind of like a disservice to the league in a way. That's how I view it. Like you should be like, it's not like you have to pay ridiculous salaries to these players to get like a team that's feasible, right? Like you're talking like $100,000 a person. Like if you can't put together like $1 million in terms of budgeting for a coaching staff and players at LCS level, I feel like just get the fuck out of the league. But what's your take, Thorin?
Yeah, put it this way, like I don't doubt it. Like I don't think it's just an excuse. For example, there are a lot of people, by the way, the last year or so who've been using all this, like the world circumstances, as an excuse for just being shit at business, and then they try to play it off that that's why they're failing. I actually don't think that is the case, because I know from being involved with the CS:GO tournament Flashpoint, where we had teams like, for example, Dignitas, who was like the Philadelphia 76ers people, are the investors. I do know that it's not necessarily that like they just pull the money out. It's more like when you come for your next round, like, oh, I need more money this year, then that's when they're probably like, right, I've got nothing for you though, mate. Like, look, I'm like, I haven't sold any tickets myself. I'm in bad shit, you know. So that's the big problem, I think, is that people who thought that they already had the next set of money that they maybe needed. So I can understand why they might go budget roster. I'm with you, though. There's no point literally going to, like put it this way, there's not really a good analogy for, I guess maybe the GoldenGuardians one is, because I thought some of those players had no business being in LCS, compared to like some of the names, you know, some of the names that weren't playing or were on benches. Yeah, that's outrageous. But aside from those ones, there aren't any ones that are too egregious. The real game, unfortunately, none of you are going to know, is actually Overwatch. Overwatch, they're doing that in a way that's like mad egregious, mate. I'm talking like some of the biggest franchises. Probably the maddest example was the one that's the LA Valiant franchise. They just got rid of their whole team and got some like fucking nobody, like Asian players that like shouldn't even vaguely be in their team, just to save money because of this whole period. So I do think there's some teams doing that, but like I personally do think like if you're going to min-max completely like that, it actually should be the other owners that are pushing for that's to be a problem. They should call each other out on it, in my opinion. Because like the problem there is like, why are we sharing profits to someone who's putting no effort in whatsoever? Imagine like make fun of TSM all you want. At least they tried to sign players. I think they signed the wrong players. Like I wouldn't sign Sword Up, but you know what? Spending $6 million, that's sick. Who doesn't want that? I don't want to see a team like, oh, here's a guy called Niles who was good in collegiate. Who gives a fuck? What's even the chances he's good? The chances were non-existent.
I mean, I think it's rough there for GoldenGuardians, but the signing that I hate the most is the newbie signing, where it's like, we're going to import somebody who's been playing for 6 years in a wild card region, who's 24 years old, that hasn't even shown much upside. Like, that to me is just like, at that point, it's just like, it's like disrespectful to the rest of the league. So like, other teams are importing Core JJ and Sword Art, and you're importing newbie who's 24 and has literally just been playing in LLA, or it was like LAS and then LLA for the last like 5 years. I don't know. To me, it just seems like teams like that are kind of like disrespecting the league, or like they're devaluing the league. Because the other thing is, like, when you have teams that are these developmental teams, like the developmental rosters, I don't actually believe that they're legitimately focused on developing those players. I think that just put together a bad team, and they just want to call it something so that it sounds appeasing. Like, they're trying to just like put the sugar on top so that it sounds like, oh guys, don't flame us too hard, we're developing. When in the end of the day, like at the end of the day, how much development are they going to put in versus like changing the players every year, or if the players end up doing good, selling them? Like, it just doesn't.
What do they even mean when they say that word as well, mate? Because the problem with this, right, is when you say development to me, I take it like with the traditional sense of like you're developing him for the future, right? Well, in reality, if the player gets good, like you saw with the GoldenGuardians players last year, well, they're not going to be your team anyway. So who are you developing them for? What, you develop them for your rivals? No, in that scenario, it only makes sense to say you're developing them if during your contract with them, they will develop. Like, if I have the player for 2 years and I know after one split he could be really good, right, that's developing. In my opinion, it's just nonsense to be like, right, just you happening to wear a Golden Guardians jersey for a year meant I developed you and someone else gets you. Like, well, if I'm a fan of Golden Guardians, why would I be loving that? What, we develop all the good talent for everyone else? That's a garbage brand.
I mean, a lot of the other thing is like, and this is where I think we can bring Crowny in, is the developmental players. I don't feel like have too many upsides like a lot of the time. Where they'll just say that they're developing players that are like 24 years old that have been playing pro for 6 years, where it doesn't really like make any sense. You know, like we have people that are now getting their start. They're getting their big break in LCS. They're like 3-4 years older than Crowny. You know, they're
I'm just waiting until they develop deftly, because tell you what, if the amount of development that's been going on with him, it'll be like a fucking Kame or whatever it was from Dragon Ball Z. The build-up took about 5 years.
Sure.
Okay, so it's like, I mean, I think the logic is to just say they're developing, and they're mostly just developing to try to sell them to a different team, no? Like, they want to spend the lowest amount possible and then try to get the buyout. Like, I think it's obvious to people who know how this stuff works. Like, that's what they're trying to do. And when they say they're developing, they're trying to make sure people don't like flame them too hard. Yeah, I mean, that's literally all that it is. It's just saying, oh yeah, don't flame us if we're last place. We're just developing. Like, we're trying to develop rookies, and then if the rookie actually ends up being good, then maybe they can take some credit for it, right?
Yeah.
They can be like, oh, we scouted this guy. We developed him, but that's just how it works, I suppose.
Yeah, I think
here's the analogy, boys, because I'm sick of this whole development thing. Because I agree, it's just marketing bullshit. Developing players is like having sex, right? Either you're developing because you're working on something, it might be better, but if it's not even up to basic par levels, I don't give a fuck that you're reading a book and trying something. Just fucking stick to the meat and potatoes. Do it basic. Get in, get out. Don't fuck around too much, and then let's just leave it to the jury to decide. That's all
what the fuck? Okay, all right, that's an analogy. Like, I don't know what's going on. I thought Loco was on fucking face check like a couple years ago. Damn.
Oh
shit.
mate, you know what's mad? I don't know where people find this shit, but like it turns out because someone did this video that was at the best of Listen Loco or whatever. So I was watching a little bit. It's obviously just me wrecking Loco for like half an hour or so. I think it's like 3 hours long. But in it, they took a clip that I forgot actually happened, which is that when Monty had his wedding, I don't know if people know this, but they had this weird angle where they also like streamed it, and there was like a sort of like a desk area with all the mixer where you could go and you could give it a message to the stream or whatever. And so at some point, like Loco and like two of those girls, I forget the names of them, though. I know one of them was fucking Jessica, if you know, the one who was working for all those teams, so like Shroud's girlfriend or whatever. There was a couple of people that like basically are like known in like the League of Legends scene in LA, and they were like Loco's friends, because Loco always has like 1 million people in his friend zone. Just like the joke is when Loco just opened Facebook, everyone in LA was just his friend already. Like that's like the level that Loco's on, right? So anyway, he was there doing his usual shtick of like, I'm sort of like a shit Vince Vaughn, like not getting any of these girls, but it's like I'm with them, so do I get social proof? So obviously I just went up there, right? Because they were like, oh, come up, Thorin. And at one point, right, Loco just gets so embarrassed because one of them says something like, they're saying like, and are you doing streams streaming local? And he's like, yeah, whatever. And then she goes, oh, I'll have to take a look at your deck then. And I go, she said deck local. She's going to take a look at your deck. And he just gets so embarrassed. It's actually unreal, mate. You should just see this video. Like, he just, because in that moment, he was like, there's fucking girls around us, dude. Like, you could just see in his eyes the fear.
Jesus, man. Thorn has no filter. Like, Thorn's the type of, he's like the reverse wingman, where he just tries to make you feel as embarrassed as possible when you're with like a group of girls. It's like, Thorn, like, look who I'm with. And Thorn's like, you know how much of a piece of shit this guy is? Like,
basically, yeah. Oh, nice. Don't worry, they love the joke though, yeah, but that is expensive cost.
Respect. So. All right, so don't invite Thorin to clubs. Okay, excellent. All right, now that we've got that crossed off, I wanted to get Crowny's opinion on Dignitas, because Dignitas for me feels like, I mean, I had a controversial opinion on them recently, and you know, I'm of the opinion that roster is actually not going to develop. I think that roster peaked in February and is literally just going to get worse and worse throughout the season. Like, do you have, like, to me, they kind of remind me of the NA version of SK, where I feel like the players kind of got some wins together, but I don't see these players becoming like monsters anytime soon. I can't see Jezu starting to actually like win a lane phase or not go down like 10 CS every single time. So, like, when you watch, like, I'm assuming you. What, man?
I don't know. I'm just, I mean, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think what happens generally in spring is that the sixth team is the one that's like kind of the most like cohesive, right, and has the most like best meta read or just played the same style, and Dignitas was just winning games of like they just had good meta understanding and stuff, and I think they also had like,
I don't even feel like that's how they won games. I felt like they literally just got the game like thrown to them, and they were like one of those animalistic teams.
Say. Yeah, I want to say like teams threw a lot, and Darder had like some like unique peaks, right? That I guess got people of I don't know. It just it managed to give them enough wins to pass. But what happens generally in spring is that the sixth place team is getting barely in anyway. Like if you actually check every split, it's like very, very close the race, right? So it can be any team, and I think it just kind of depends on the split. Like a lot of times it just, I don't know, it's kind of a flip. It feels which team goes, and I think I guess it was in NA it was Dignitas, and probably don't see them getting much better. I think even though their ADC said he's the best ADC in NA, I don't think that's true. So
yeah, I think he's definitely the best player on their team, though. That's what I'll say. I'll say on Dignitas, I think Neo is probably like the only player that has like the ability to compete with top players. I mean, I guess my question would just be like a more pointed question would be this: do you think that SK and Dig, like if we just say like sixth place will be the marker, like do you think that they will finish over or under sixth place for like each of them in LCS and LEC in summer?
I mean, under, I would say, if I had to like take a guess, I would say under.
For both?
I think, I mean, I think Dignitas got 3-0'd, right? And I think SK was super close to getting 3-0'd, and I think like it was just like a bit of a throw by Fnatic, but I think it was a 3-0 for sure, and their bot lane lost incredibly hard every game, and they have holds in their play that got exposed really hard the last 2 weeks. I think they went 0-5. Like, I mean, I literally got them into playoffs. Like, if we didn't beat Misfits, then they would not be. They would have to beat G2, and they would not have beaten G2.
So you're still saving SK after all this time? Is what I'm hearing.
I mean, I don't want to. No, I mean, like, I don't.
So they
fucked
like, you, and then
to be fair, SK got exactly what they wanted in the off season.
Yeah,
they wanted exactly the same result, but for less money, and they got exactly that. So, who the real businessman here, Crowny? Sounds like they know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, actually.
I mean, God, yeah, I mean. I don't want to put it that harshly, but I mean, their play got exposed towards the end, right? It literally, their style got figured out, and it got exposed. And a lot of times, I think it happens in spring. There's like teams that do well, and then in summer they just fall off, right? Not even from like spring to summer. Like a lot of times, there's just teams that have like momentum early in the split, and they just fall apart. And I guess that's what happened to them. I don't know if they're gonna pick it up in summer. Like my guess would be no, because teams kind of realize how they win now. So my guess would just be no.
So this kind of like leads into the next thing I wanted to talk about. So like, what is the point of calling these teams developmental rosters, right? Because theoretically, if you're developing players, that means that your results should be getting better and better as time goes on. But here, we're dealing with two teams that it looks like they've already peaked, and like you don't think that they're gonna do better. Like I agree with the same opinion. Like I think that SK and Dig are both gonna fall off in summer split in their respective regions. So for me, that's where I normally have exceptions to these rosters. Is like a lot of times I don't actually feel like the developmental rosters are gonna get better over time. I feel like they're almost gonna get worse over time, because what will end up happening is because the players are just simply not as good in lane, people won't feel as pressured to make plays versus them, and like people have figured out kind of versus K, don't let treats get random kill in lanes, and just like let your mid and AD lane versus Jezu and blue for as long as possible, and then they're just gonna accrue advantages and you'll just win the game through there. So that's my issue with like these developmental rosters. I actually don't perceive them to develop. That's like why I think that a lot of these rosters, like the idea is BS, and because both of these teams have made playoffs in spring, it feels like they're going to get so much more of a pass than they necessarily like deserve going into summer. People be like, oh, well, you know, it's a young roster, like they made playoffs.
Oh, no, mate. The classic one, especially in League of Legends, that people always do, it's one of the ones that Loco was infamous for being like his #1 fallacy in analysis, is that if you do well in spring and he didn't expect you to, he just takes it as like a line going on a graph and he just goes, right, I assume you're going to get 1.5 times better in summer, you know, like, whereas as you're saying, like, if anything, if you peak, it's going to be the opposite. So, now, put it this way, the other reason I also don't buy the idea they're actually real developmental rosters is because aside from a scenario, like, maybe if I had some amazing coach, I might want loads of rookies. But if I'm actually trying to develop rookies, I'd want like some veterans next to them. Or for example, if you're like a rookie AD carry, then I want like a super veteran support with you, so that as a coach and a teammate, we can work with you. What are we developing if we've got 4 or 5 rookies and they've never played together from even the same region or anything? We're not developing anything there. You can't make 5 people all learn the game coherently, but individually and separately. And for you, like, the whole thing's nonsense, isn't it? It's like, it doesn't even work as a premise.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the only person that's been able to do that was like Mad Lions with their roster last year. Like that was one of the only developmental rosters where I was like, but then even when I look at it, it doesn't even look like it was that developmental compared to like a lot of the players just seemed like they were already good, to be honest.
They were good in themselves in spring, mate. So yeah, what did they have to develop that much?
Yeah,
I won the best immediately.
I mean, I think that in general, I don't really know how much development is possible with young players that don't have like crazy levels of innate talent. That's my issue with League of Legends, because it feels like some people just have it and some people don't. Like if you got Blabber in Season 8, like who cares if he's young, you know? It wasn't like, oh shit, he's developing on Cloud9. No, they just put him straight into fucking games and he was just popping off from like day 1 in LCS, pretty much. So I guess that's my issue with this like entire mentality is I feel like people give too much they give too much time for players to develop, when in reality, I feel like once you hit LCS, there should be like an expected level of play that you're able to meet. And a lot of times, like, it just feels like we have academy players there that aren't, that don't actually have the possibility of being top tier. It's like, oh, maybe this guy can develop into being like an all right LCS player. But very rarely do I see a player that was like bad in LCS for a while develop after like 2-3 years and then become good. Like I'm sure that there's examples that I just haven't thought of, but like it's very rare that I see a player actually have like 1 or 2 bad years and then become like extremely good.
I mean, also I guess it kind of depends what your definition of development is, right? Like if it's getting better every split, or if developing from 6th place to 5th place is development, or if is it getting to worlds when you didn't, or you know, like it depends what metrics I guess you're looking at. But I think a lot of times fans don't even know how to judge players. Like I think they every time they look at rookies, they like to overhype them for things they do, and they tend to ignore their mistakes. It happens every single split. Like, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would say that it's just what teams say is that they're developing, right, to try to maybe lessen the pressure on the rookies minds and not make them feel as pressured. But I also think there are some huge holes like in SK's play that were very easy to play against and abuse, and it was shown multiple times. I think their bot lane is one of the worst in lane in LEC, and it's backed up by stats and like eye test, like every game.
But they got some 2v2 kills.
Yeah, exactly. I mean that's what people like see, like right. But if they actually see the way they play lanes and the the ways that they get kills is either ganks or it's just mostly ganks, right? Like I think there was even like some games where I mean, there was the first game against us where we played Kai'Sa Seraphine into Vayne.
There was one game where like I saw Jezu playing Vayne, but that just showed how good of a player he was because he was down like 30 CS in lane to the enemy AD carry and then was still able to outperform him in team fights.
Yeah, I mean, it was against me, right? Like he was, they were literally 30 CS down. Like their lane was frozen for 4 minutes, right? But it shows a fundamental wrong understanding of laning if that happens. And they were what? I think the average was minus 25 CS against Fnatic bot lane. People don't understand how much that is. Like, people don't understand if you're losing this hard, it's like you're playing a top tier against bottom tier player. Like 25 CS average is huge. And getting soul killed every lane. Four games in a row, Fnatic bottom was killing.
Yeah, and upsets at an 81. It's not like they're playing against, you know, like a true, a true like 88 plus.
I mean, I don't know. No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, 81 for sure. Things is 90. Anyway,
definitely is. By the way, definitely is. Yeah.
Anyway, like I don't want to get into, but like the thing is, like people, in my opinion, like the best way to, like. If a team is consistently, or like a bot lane or just a player is consistently losing lane phases, but just getting away with it in like spring because teams are like not super good at realizing this yet, right? Then it will not work in summer. Because if teams just realize, like, oh, just pick scaling as these guys, you will never get punished, and then you just outscale them because you will win team fights because that's the main way they're winning. Then. Well, you just do that and then you win for free. Like that's what we did.
Do you think it's like fixable in like a short manner? Do you think that Jezu, for example, like will be able, or like, is there things that you can pick up on that it's like, oh, like he just doesn't understand these few things, and like if he gets them, like he doesn't have good recall timings in lane, or he doesn't like trade aggressively enough, or is it just like you simply just don't view him as like a good enough player?
I think
it sounds like you think his lane is just busted. So
I mean, it is. I mean, like legit, objectively, it's the biggest hole in their gameplay. I mean, I don't know if it can be fixed. Maybe it's like a inherent player style that can't be changed unless you like. I mean, I don't know. Like obviously. This is a weird comparison, but like Deft, when he was first starting to play, he was known for like just playing for team fights, right? But then as time went on, he was like one of the best laners. But
so Jezu is EU Deft, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. So with time, he will become like Deft in lane, and people will remake scrims because he's stomping them so hard.
Okay,
no, but like
good.
Seriously, seriously though, right? My point is like. I think player styles can't really change. Like, I don't know, it's just maybe the way someone is not brought up, but just the way their view on the game is, or the way they had to play in teams before. Maybe in teams before, he didn't have to win lane because he was just getting carried. But when you play LEC and you can't, like, again, like 25 CS, like, is just such an absurd number to lose
it's like a kill and a half
every game. Like, it's like, how much waves? That's like 4 waves. Like that's insane, right? And like 800 gold and constantly losing 2v2. And I don't know. I think teams in summer will be better at exploiting this. So that's why I can't really value them highly or value him highly, because I think that's a very important part of a ADC's gameplay.
So I actually feel like this is the hardest thing, and the reason why it feels like we're kind of picking on Jezu is I think that he's a good example of like just why I don't feel like he'll develop. Is generally my perspective is that if you want to develop a player like mid, bot, whatever, I think their biggest strength should be lane phase. Like you should see that they're like a really good laner and then want to develop the other things that are like easily teachable. I feel like it's very hard to like go in. I mean, it's not undoable, but it's very hard to teach a player like how to inherently lane well, because a lot of that just comes from like their ability to like read situations and like know like, okay, like what can I do here? Am I safe? Am I not? Like, can I push on this wave? Can I base? Like what timings do I want to base out? Like when can we push advantages? Like I feel like that comes down to like innate game understanding. But my issue is like a lot of these players that are supposed to develop actually seems like Jezu is decently like intelligent about the game past it. It just feels like he doesn't have like the like player ability to get himself to that state in many situations. So That's my issue.
Problem with that is, mate, he's a fucking AD carry. Like, we're not talking like some like, oh, the nuances of top lane and what was the meta. The fucking guy who just attacks. Like, if you can't actually lane when you come in, like, mate, that's to have something to develop. Like, you don't start with nothing. Like, oh, there's an empty gallery. Can you just develop a bunch of masterpieces for me? No, I need some fucking skill. I have to have like a basic like fucking school that I'm working from. Here's like something I'm starting with as a concept. Like, that's what I don't get. Is like, why even bring a player like that in the league if they don't have the basics down? Like, there must be a million people in solo queue who have good laning. Like you say, mate, I'd rather work on a guy's back roll than get the basics of the game down.
Well, it's also like the consistency like factor, right? Like, I assume that that's the idea when you try to develop players like this. It's like, okay, like he's consistent in what he does, so if we're able to like level him up a little bit, we're gonna get like a pretty like stable result compared to like other players that when you look at players that are like developmental in other regions. Like, look at like Gumayushi, for example. It doesn't look like this. Like, the things that you're trying to develop when you're talking about Gumayushi is like, all right, like try to like tone down a couple of like the random ints in the mid game, but that seems way more fixable for me than taking a player that won't be able to actually lane. So I think that's the biggest issue I have with a lot of the ways that these developmental rosters are put together is they, like, honestly, that's like why when I talk about GoldenGuardians, I don't talk about Niles that much, because I actually think that he does some things. Like, obviously he like dies to every gank and he's fucking running it down half the games, but at least it seems like when he's in good situations for him, like he's able to mechanically outplay sometimes. So like that is something that I value. It's like, oh, he can actually compete. If he just didn't int the entire game, then he would be able to like actually like compete with other players mechanically. Like, he can outplay in certain situations. Like, he could get a solo kill here or there. I think that actually has value. So for me, I just think that this is like feeds into the bigger idea of like people are developing the wrong players. Like, they're taking like players like Deftly, for example, man. Like, that's the NA80 carry where it's like, come on, man. If you're not going to be able to like auto attack, like, how are we ever going to develop you? Like, okay.
After all these years as well. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, that was egregious. I mean, shit. I mean, it just is what it is. I wonder if there was another 80 carry that they could have like imported from Europe, you know, maybe changed something else.
There was none.
Yeah,
that's also the other thing, by the way. That's where, listen, I know there obviously was also the case that it was hard to get visas and it wasn't as easy as past years. But there's another area where, like, fuck the excuse that's just because of coronavirus. Like, so basically, we're supposed to believe teams like Dignitas were like, nah, actually, I'm just cool with these 5 players. Fuck having like Febervern, Crownshot, Nemesis. I don't want these players, or Cabashard. They're nothing to me. I prefer to have these fucking 5 players where you've heard of 2 of them and the rest never made it. Like these are just cynically made rosters. Nobody's making that roster think it's the best players they could put together. No way. Same with SK. Same with all these fucking teams.
I mean, but they've won the community perception. You know, like, sadly, that's the thing is like that's the biggest issue for me is that now if they do anything, like, let's say they actually were like, okay, we're gonna make a change to make the roster better, and they're like, okay, we're replacing. You know, we're replacing Saligo with Nemesis, and then we're getting Solo instead of Fake God in the top lane, right? The community's perception is gonna be like, what the fuck? Saligo and Fake God.
Flamed, you're right. Yeah.
Saligo and Fake God didn't even play bad. They got to playoffs in their first split. Like, this is the problem with NA. Like, they don't let rookies develop. Like, that would I can see it right now that's the fucking
probably right
community perception. So like, I feel like now you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because like,
well, yeah. So, but don't you think they would do this because Dignitas in the first place said they're gonna develop? So then, if they would go back on their word and change after one split, that's why they would get. I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe they'd get flamed regardless. But I think like there would be more flame because they tried to say that they're going for a developmental roster, and then they would just like back out on it midway, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely part of it. I mean, there'd be, but. In reality, it's like, how much does the narrative compare to like actually winning? You know, like,
yeah. I mean,
in
the end, it's up to like the teams what they want, right? Like, you can't expect to like field a team full of any rookies that never played like anywhere. Like, it's not like anyone expected GoldenGuard like to be super good, right? Like, so in the end, it's just about expectations, right? If a team puts a full rookie roster and then hypes up expectations, then they deserve to get criticized, I guess. I mean, because they're like,
I feel like they deserve to get criticized either way, because at the end of the day, it's a fucking competition, you know? Like,
I mean, sure, like, yeah, if you're losing, I don't know how many games there's in NA, like more, right? Like 30
18.
Something.
Well, there's 18 in the spring split and 27 in the
okay,
summer.
so I mean, yeah, it just doesn't reset, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're I agree. I mean, in the end, it's about showing good gameplay, right? Like, it's not the same as in like sports leagues where teams like intentionally tank, right? To get better draft picks. It's not the same. Like here, you actually have to. Like if fans don't want to watch you, then literally no one will watch your games and no one will care about your games. So I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think criticism is valid for sure.
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of these teams, they care more about community perception than actually winning. That's like, it's a cynical take, but when I see like some of the moves, like it's why like for 100 Thieves, even though I believe Damonte is better than Ryoma, I actually like give some respect to the org for having an idea of like what they think is legitimately going to make their team better and being willing to go against community perception because of like what their internal like parameters say. You know, like they're obviously scrimming. Yeah. They talk to the players. For some reason, they think Ryoma's better. They have more data than us. Like, I can criticize it all I want, but like I at least like that the org is doing things that in their mind is trying to help them win. I just feel like a lot of orgs are willing to coast off like not getting flamed and just being okay. And, you know, to me, I just feel like that's the issue with like teams that are kind of like the perennial bottom teams within the regions, right? Like SK is never a good team in Europe. I mean, they'll peak at okay. They're like Dig, right? They'll peak at okay, like first round playoffs. Like maybe they win the first round playoffs, they go second round playoffs or something, right? But that's where their peak is. And then most of the time the rosters are like out of playoffs or between like 10th and like 6th place, right? I feel like Dignitas is the same type of team. Whereas like when you look at other regions, it feels like they're willing to take more risks to try to make their roster be good. Like even look at Hanwha Life, right? Like Hanwha Life was horrible last year. At least they're able to like, okay, well, they made changes. They brought in Chovy, they brought in Deft. I mean, they're not great this year, but you see that there's like a progression going on. You look at teams like China, right? Like, or regions like China, and you look at teams like EDG and RNG. I mean, these teams were terrible last year, and then they're bringing in like
star players. Sick off-season work, yeah.
Yeah, they did insane off-season work. I feel like a lot of teams in NA and EU just don't do this. They're like, okay, being mediocre.
Yeah. I mean, HLE spent a lot to improve from, I don't know, they were like 9th place, 10th place maybe, and now they're like 5th or something. I mean, they bought Chovy and Deft. I'm sure they're not cheap, you know, so you can commend them for actually wanting to get better and like being willing to work for it. I mean, spend for it, I guess. Like in the end, like, I mean, if you want to be better, you have to spend more money, you know, it's just the nature of of sports. I don't know.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, unless your talent pool is infinite and you have infinite developmental skills, but otherwise you just have to spend money on better players to improve. Generally, I guess.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So it's the same in NBA. Like there's teams spending huge amounts to get the best players, right? So
yeah. I mean, I just feel like that's kind of what like kills the fun of the league. It feels like when you're watching NA, you're like, who's gonna win? TL, TSM, or C9. Like those are the only 3 teams that have won in how long? How long has it been since another team has fucking won besides for those 3 teams? So like that's my biggest issue is it doesn't feel like the other teams like actually have their eyes like set on the prize and are willing to compete. So you end up with like a lot of matches that don't really matter. It's like I don't realistically think that 100 Thieves down can win the league. I think there's 7 teams in LCS that can't win NA. Like nothing will happen.
Here's the problem, Dom. The real problem, if you want to go this split for NA, goes like this. There are 2 orgs who, in my opinion, egregiously fucked up the rosters, which is 100 Thieves and EG. These teams have the pieces. Most of those players could be on a team that could win LCS, but they fucked up a key position. Mid lane for 100 Thieves, AD carry for fucking EG. Like the rest of the players in theory, like I know some haven't been that good this split, but like on paper, those are like championship potential rosters, but you see them in the game, these teams can't win LCS. They can't. They're just too flawed. So like the reason why that kills the hype for me, mate, is because if those 2 teams were in the mix, dude, we'd have like 5 teams deep in NA. That would be a fucking sick split to watch.
Yeah.
5 real teams, all matchups, double elim playoff. That would actually be really sick.
It means that at least you'd get, if it was that, right, what you're saying, at least in this format, in the losers bracket, you get 1 hype match.
Like, you'd have some banger games, yeah.
You'd at least, but like the losers bracket.
Because think about it, would already be like EG versus TSM or something. Like, it could be an amazing game, you know.
Yeah, it could be amazing, you know. And honestly, a slightly better AD carry could do that. So I mean, that's the whole thing that I'm bringing up is I feel like yeah, there's just not enough like desire to win from a lot of the teams. I guess specifically, like, do you have like a different take? Like, do you think that 100 Thieves has that much upside with their roster? Like, do you think they could potentially beat TSM in the next round, Crowny?
I mean, I think nobody can touch C9 and TL in that region. But maybe 100 Thieves can beat TSM, but even if they do, like, I don't see them contesting like the next two spots. Well, in EU, I think it's different, right? I think there's like for sure like 4 or 5 teams, like the ones that are left now. Like, I mean, when you see these rosters, you're impressed. You know, you're like, oh, like these games will be close for sure. But when you watch an A, like, I mean, in no wildest dream of mine, like, is 100 Thieves winning against C9. You know. Yeah. Or like, if C9 is playing a best of 5 fully prepared, like, they're not taking 3 games of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're not taking one. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I think people are also like, I think 100 Thieves did really well in the first tournament, so people are kind of overhyping them from that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're locking.
Yeah, they went 3-2 versus C9, or 2-3.
Yeah, I think they won. Yeah, like, they were winning more games, and I think maybe the meta was a bit better. I think Olaf was like super strong at that point, and maybe some other champions.
TF Galio.
Yeah, I think yeah, exactly. They're like global mids. I think they were doing like a lot of early dives. Like, something I saw so many games when I watched them is they're just slow push early waves, or either on top and bot and or mid, and always TP's level 4. Jungle is always there. They're always like kind of active early, and Closer was looking. It's funny how fast the perception of Closer changed though. Like, he used to get praised by everyone, now he just gets flamed by everyone. So either people were overreacting before, or they're overreacting now. Like, it's so weird. Like,
I think they're overreacting now. I mean, I think that.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a good player. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's so funny how fast it changes. It's like, before they're like one of the best junglers in NA, and then they have a few bad like games, and they look like they don't have that much synergy. He just starts getting flamed constantly. So weird.
Yeah, I think the huge thing that people don't take into account there is like what a player's role is within teams, and like when they're picking their champions. Like, Closer doesn't get fucking like great matchups where he can punish people, and that's kind of the nature of jungle. Like, I feel like jungle right now in competitive play is like you're trading off full clears a lot of the time. You're trading off Olaf or Lilia for champions like Udi or Hecarim. Like, you're just trading these full clear junglers. So at the end of the day, if like the game is really chaotic or something goes terrible early, which would happen with 100 Thieves 100 times, like every time, I feel like that's something that you can blame partly on the jungler, but it's really hard to recover. Like, he's not playing champions where he has ways back into the game, or there's ways for him to like really contest or like carry his team across the finish line if things go poorly. So
I mean, maybe there's like, I think also people. Like, in my mind, when I saw 100 Thieves roster, I felt like they could maybe beat TSM, because like when I see TSM roster, like, I see some good parts, but it's not like I'm like, whoa, this team is crazy, right? Like, unbeatable. But maybe like also people in 100 Thieves, they saw like them upgrade their bot lane, right? Or like they got a bot lane that people were praising a lot in NA, right? Because they like beat treats and double it so much in that best of 5, and then like
a half-retired double lift, like 1 foot out the door. Yep, they beat him. Didn't look like the same player in season 10. Then he looked at like the double lift had 2 different careers. He had like season 1 through 9 where he was like this dominant laning fucking monster. You come into lane versus him in NA, you were getting shit on. You're down 15, 20 CS minimum. And then there was like season 9 where he was just average, like 80 carry, where it just felt like he didn't really care as much anymore.
I remember double lift's kind of like the legacy media in America. He used to do some great work for which he was hailed. Then he just got lazy the last few years and just fucked around with the president all the time. You know.
Okay, come on, man. Jesus, we gotta bring it there every time. Why can't we just talk about the play, Thorin? Come on, man.
I didn't make that have to be a fact that's publicly known. They could have kept it secret, Romeo and Juliet style, but they refused to learn from history, or players in this case.
I mean, I wanted to say, like, in season 8, I remember watching, I think when he first played against 100 Thieves in that finals, it was like stomping lane every game. Like, whatever he played, that guy looked like he had like insane stats, and just even eye test.
Yeah,
he was just stomping everyone.
Really fucking good.
What's
he was
crazy,
like,
right?
Very good.
And the most like insane thing that happened was when he like forgot to buy the item in that game, right? Like, that was crazy. But I think
TP'd without his item. And,
I mean, like,
it happened twice in the same split. Oh, okay. Continue.
Really? Okay. I mean, anyway, like, I think when I saw 100 Thieves roster and when I saw them play in like the lock-in tournament, I was like, oh, this team looks like pretty good, you know. They had like good fun, like they were doing good stuff in games, and they had like a clear way they want to play. They were playing around Closer, and like he was controlling the map with Olaf and all of this. So I thought that would be pretty decent, but I guess meta shifted a bit away. Like Galio stopped being played. People just banned TF. I also like someday was, I think most people were rating him pretty highly. I know Alfari hasn't rated him highly in a while, but maybe he was right. I don't know. I don't know enough right about top lane, but I can't really like tell you exactly why they're struggling now because I haven't watched them enough. But like when I see their roster and TSM roster, I could see like either of them being third. Like it was, if you would have to ask me before the split to predict,
I had 100 Thieves third before the split.
Yeah, like I would know for sure C9TL top 2, but then after that, like I think some people would put EG, some people would put 100 Thieves, some people would put TSM. So I think it's after that it's like kind of a free for all, I suppose. Kind of depends on meta and how the team reads the patch, and like sometimes some players stroll on some teams, like EG already just through, even though I think they were like in winning positions, and then TSM sometimes have like weird drafts with like Nocturne top blind randomly.
Yep.
In like super weird spots with like a, I don't even know.
Camille with Ignite in really weird spots
makes
too.
No sense. Like it just makes no sense. Some of their like decisions, like they're off this, I guess. So it's kind of hard to. It feels like hard to predict. Like if you'd tell me predict now how the series is gonna go, TSM or Hunters, I actually don't know. Like I think TSM might win, but I legit have no clue.
Problem is, what is there even like about 100 Thieves? Like a team that doesn't have a good mid laner has no fucking soul, as far as I'm concerned. Like the identity of most teams is based on the fucking mid laner, you know. So like the problem with this team is they're so boring.
Yeah, like if you're 10th place in Europe, you probably wouldn't have a great mid laner. Like that's just
if you're a team and you just have some pop-off players, I can get into that. Maybe this, like think when Selfmade was on the fucking team with Crowny back in the day, the SK team. Like you knew at least Selfmade could go crazy in a game. Everyone remembers that series against Splice. Like he was doing work. He was trying his hardest to carry. But the problem with this team is like they don't even have that, because like the way that this team plays, like it's not going to work, mate. There's no like mad variance. They're just going to lose in a really boring fashion. Like the only chance, as far as I can tell, for TSM to actually blow this series is if fucking Spicker and the rest of them just keep up their tricks where their idea of macro is just go to the Baron, like all float. Like, mate, when Spicker's son's born, he'll be like, what am I doing at the Baron again? I'm supposed to do something important right now. Oh, well, is the Baron up? Like, mate, this is ridiculous. Like, they don't even know how to fight. What is this? So TSM might throw it, but like, come on, mate. The problem is, if anything, don't most people criticize TSM's drafts, like just picking winning lanes? Like that's gonna fucking win against 100 Thieves, mate. You'll just be up from the laning phase alone.
I mean, 100 Thieves, like they completely changed their identity, right? Like, I mean, obviously this is something that I don't have privileged information to like on. I don't know what's going on in scrims. Maybe they tried this approach and it failed, and this is why they changed for Ioma. But it felt like really like in Lock-in tournament, the reason why people were hyped on them is they had a defined style. You know, they were FPX-esque. You know, where they had that roaming mid laner, the guy that was willing to play a bunch of different picks, and it feels like that's still viable, right? Like, I'm telling, like, if FPX can do it in fucking China, I'm sure you could win NA playing different mid laners. You can play like, and I think that a lot of these styles would fit 100 Thieves, right? Like, imagine them with Damonte on Nocturne with Closer on Karthus. So you've put Closer on a real carry fucking jungler, and then you have Nocturne going and making plays, which is Damonte's biggest strength. He was always really great at roaming, seeing timings and side lanes where he would be able to dive, and things like that. And that's what I wanted to see out of 100 Thieves. And now I just feel like they're just a weak version of TSM. They're just a bad version of TSM. They just have they play mages only mid lane, and they have a worse mage player. So how do they win?
I mean, their star is Closer, no? Like that's their star player.
I think FBI also would be up there. Like those would be the two.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, but I guess the like, because I remember. I mean, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I just remember him carrying like a lot of games on Olaf and just taking over like in Lock-in tournament, and he would have huge leads and just like when the Gore Drinker thing was super broken. But I guess either like the meta shifted away from that, from where he can't do the same things. Like a lot of times, junglers just full clear, right? I mean, you can still see teams playing that way, right? Around jungle and stuff, but maybe they just, I don't know, like, it's the same for me as you, right? I have no clue what they're thinking, what they see in their scrims, what conclusions they're getting, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think I would still put TSM slightly favored. Just when I see like Power of Evil, like I think this guy will perform in a best of 5. Like, they put him on control majors.
As long
he's
as it's
gonna
not
do
the
well.
finals, yeah, he'll do work.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, like I just feel like TSM will like end up on top in the end. But ultimately, I don't think it matters. I think TLC9 will beat. Will the loser of that best of 5 will beat whoever like wins out of alternative CSM. So
I mean,
I just repeat.
Here's like a different way that we can talk about this, which is, imagine if things were going poorly with like their intended style of Demonte like roaming and things like that, which to me, like based on what they played in LCS, it didn't look like they were committed on that style, right? At least in tournament matches, they went to playing him pretty much only on mages, and then he wasn't performing on mages, they just kicked him off the team. So would it be better to like keep your unique style and try to make it work, or adapt and like potentially bomb out of playoffs, potentially get like 6, lose in first round and loser bracket? Or would it be better for a team like 100 Thieves to have committed or like just like change things up, go for their like new like mage style, and then end up getting a slightly higher placing? Like, what would you rather do? Because like my problem now is at least it felt like they had a chance to win playing the different style, but now they're like, okay, they're going to be able to beat Dignitas with mages, I guess, but they're going to get 4th. Like, to me, I don't see any way where they'll actually beat TSM. Like,
but it doesn't matter placing in NA if you're not first in spring, no? It doesn't.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm wrong, right? But I think it doesn't give points, so like I guess teams should aim for the higher.
It doesn't give
maybe
points.
they're just saying, yeah, I think we can, if we improve, we can win the split. Cope him. I don't know, like I mean, like it's like nobody will outright say, okay, guys, like there's no way we can, I don't see teams doing that. So they just think the style fits them better, and they probably think
they're just
playing
on that
way.
copium hard. Oh god, yeah, Ryoma will definitely hit a Shockwaves versus PoE next series. It's gonna be fine. He'll definitely be able to outlane PoE's Azir and Orianna, like copium. Like, come on.
The worst thing is, dude, we've also reached the phase where like it's one thing if you just lie like that in interviews, but you don't really believe it, dude. I think the worst thing about 100 Thieves is I think they genuinely do believe Ryoma still has potential, and I think that they genuinely believe, Dom, that if they play these games, he does half decent, that they can like build off that for next split, and it'll be like it's like the whole thing's just a waste of time. This is like dealing with someone who's like got a serious fucking like toxic relationship or like drug problem. Like someone needs to have a fucking intervention with these guys and sit them down. Like, what are you doing? Like, look at this guy here. Someday he ain't waiting for people to develop. He wants to win now. Like, look, this player here was like one of the best junglers, one of the best. Like, why aren't we winning now? What are we developing? This is just stupid, isn't it?
Yeah, I just like have some like mental image of like Papa Smithy in the interview, and like I'm doing the intervention. I'm like, you have to cut ties with Tommy. And then Papa Smithy just like sees Tommy in the corner, and he's like, but look at how many gold stars he has. And Tommy's just playing with the gold stars and shit. And it's like slowly you see like a tear start dropping out of his eye. It's like, no, it's past.
Dude, it's getting a bit weird now, Papa Smithy. Like, I understood before it was like, I'm from the Oceanic region myself, so maybe I have like inside connections. That's not a bad angle. Like if I was from Korea and I knew all players in solo queue, of course that's what I would do. But at this point in time, mate, now I'm just starting to ask, like, who exactly is this Tommy guy's dad? Like, what year was he born? What year is yours, Papa Smithy? Like, this is getting weird, mate. Like, why is he still in the team? Like, here's what I don't get, right, is except for 100 Thieves, do people ever even like almost like complimented by accident? Like, I've never seen another player in LCS like go out of their way to say like, I think he's actually really good or something. Like, feels like no one even addresses him except 100 Thieves people who are just either in denial or just think he's a shit player. So like, I don't even understand what's going on with that situation. Like, why are they still in this position?
I mean, I don't think that they wanted to use him at all this split. Like, I think that they were just going to have him purely as an academy player. And I think that their perception of Demonte like dropped off a cliff. That's what I would guess happened, is they were like, Demonte's going to be our guy. Like, he's good enough to at least get us to Worlds. He's been to Worlds before, so he'll be serviceable. And like, he's just going to be the person that is like a good team person. He's good to have in the environment. And then he's going to be, he's going to have his unique flair. And we saw last year that he could take a series off Bjergsen if he gets like the right picks. So I think that they just thought that Demonte was going to be a lot better than he was. And then when they like got into things and they saw some of his really bad performances, they just lost faith in him quickly, and they had to go to Ryoma. That's kind of how I view their perception of it, is like they don't really think Tommy's like a huge star or anything. I just think that it's more they have such a low opinion of Demonte that they would rather play with Tommy. That's my
Dude, the thing that I find weird as well is like another person who never gets brought up in this equation, I notice, ever, which just shows you that you're liked behind the scenes, is Zix, the coach of 100 Thieves. Dude, if this is any other team, all 24/7 people would be bringing the coach to people. We may never bring this guy's name up ever. Like, he just gets a pass that my boy Prolly never did when he was in the same shoes. And the reason why I find that weird is this approach, Dom, if anything, goes counter to the old school Zix approach. Like, Zix's style's more like, here's the piece that, because he used to be a CLG coach, obviously, here's the piece I have, let's make it work around that. So, like, famously, dude, he got to the MSI final with one of the teams that I thought on paper was the wackest of all time. We're like, who he was the mid laner, just playing Ori and Sol all the time. Like, Styx here was your replacement for Doublelift. Admittedly, he was doing a pretty good job at the time, but you were trying to replace like a mega vet with the guy who's never done it. Like, the idea you could win LCS and go to the final of MSI with that team, that in theory means you knew exactly what to do with the pieces you had. TSM, to be fair, that was a fucking rough team when he was in it. I've heard it's another team where they just got short circuited by Veggie all the time and Virks and so whatever. That's by the by. But like the 100 Thieves team now, mate, he's been in this team the whole time. Like what, a year and a half now. Like these lines have never worked. Some 100 Thieves have always been less than the sum of their parts, which is alarming to me because that either tells me he has a totally wrong vision of what he wanted to do with the players basically the whole time, or he doesn't get a say in it. So neither's good for me.
Yeah, I think that he's somebody who he's gotten a pass for a long time based off like the early success in his career. But
remember, that was 2016, dude. That's 5 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly. That's a long time ago. And even like people that have worked with him, I mean, Meteos was on a co-stream recently, and he was like, "Yeah, I have no clue what happened, but I just randomly got fucked at the end of like last season." And you know, it's not like 100 Thieves had great results after they ended up replacing Meteos with
no, of course not.
You know, like they were 7th place. So for me, like. It kind of goes back to what Crowny said earlier is like nothing matters in spring besides for getting first. If you get first, you go to MSI. If not, it doesn't matter. And you shouldn't even care that much about your record because 8 teams go to playoffs. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that they said this. I'm pretty sure that already 8 teams are going to playoffs out of 10 teams in summer. So you're almost guaranteed to go to playoffs and either way. So you should just try to be the best team possible long term. And I just don't think that this 100 Thieves is it. Like
that is so absurd. I only just looked that up myself, mate. You're right. The top out of a 10-team league, 8 teams go to the play. What the fuck is this?
It was the same last year, no?
Yep. Yeah, it was the same last year, but it was only summer split. That like so like at least it was more recency bias. Now you have from like spring until the end of summer, so you have 45 games, and then 8 of them make it. You know, it feels like by the end of it, you know, it's like okay, so now we know that GoldenGuardians is not going to be in playoffs.
Yeah.
So now the other question is like, which is going to be that other team that ends up being so bad next split that they can't go to playoffs? Like, I mean, CLG probably gets their stuff together. Like, maybe FlyQuest ends up terrible. Maybe Immortals ends up. Like, I would guess that Immortals and Immortals and GoldenGuardians just end up being the 2 teams out of playoffs. And then, yeah, the rest of the teams just get in.
This format looks like someone was intentionally trying to fuck with Kadril so that when he has to say that line, that's true. Like, I check he never made the playoffs of LEC. Now some random fucking FlyQuest could be like, really? Oh, I made it my first year. Like, yeah, because everyone does, you fucking cunt. Listen, if we all know anything, right? Kadril doesn't need anyone's help to get himself in trouble. He's already doing that himself.
God damn the Kadril flame. Holy
whatever. I'm cooling off on that now. It's all right. He's earned his way back.
Okay, so I guess
I did like, by the way, shout out, I did like that stupid ass like fucking monologue he did for like the Dignitas players or whatever. No, it was the 100 Thieves, but that was it. Those are some good references. He put some good puns in there.
Yeah, no, it was good. Okay, so before we jump off NA, last thing I want to just get Crowny's opinion on is TL versus C9. Like, do you have do you have an idea of who you think will end up winning? Because I think I have a different opinion than most.
I think he said C9 with some insights. So come on, let's get into it.
Yeah, on the last one I said C9 because in best of 5s I value like
clutch factor basically,
more. Yeah, and I would always bet on Sven over tactical, especially if he plays like this. So, I mean,
what do you actually think of Sven this year, by the way? Give us some thoughts on him.
Me? Or...
Yeah, what about Sven this
I mean, I've thought for a long time that this guy is still really good. Like, even people like love to meme him and stuff because of some moments. But, I mean, I've had immense respect from this guy ever since I played against him in solo queue in EU. Like, I think this guy was insane in EU, and I think he's insane in NA. Like, I think he was the closest one with Rectus to like from the West in the past years to like the Korean ADCs, like or like the Eastern. Like in terms of the way he plays, like I thought he his fundamentals and everything that I saw from him playing against other people in NA, like I just thought that he was much better, even though all of those other players keep calling themselves better than him. And he never, like, there's also something, like, he never outright says it, right? Or like, he just lets his play speak for himself, which I don't know. He just wins, and I think I've always had a lot of respect for him. I think I would always bet on him over tactical. If the meta is like this, I think it's gonna come for sure down to team fights. Like literally every best of 5 does. So I don't know if it's gonna be like 3-0, 3-1, or 3-2. Like I'm sure TL can take some games for sure. Like they're a good team as well. They have very good players. But that's why I value C9 over them. Do you prefer TL or?
I prefer TL, but I mean, I just mainly think that TL has better laners. Like I feel like their laning is just more solid. But I can see C9 winning. I think it's super close. My question on for you on Sven is like, how do you value his clutch factor? And like, because I value this a lot in like best of 5s. I personally kind of view Sven the way I used to view Reckless. Now I think Reckless is actually like clutch. Like he's proven to me that he actually can perform when it matters. But now I kind of feel like Sven will only beat players that he's like better than by like a decent degree. I feel like in general I've seen like Sven have like a lot of like weird like choke / moments where I feel like he could be clutcher and not perform. Like, do you sense any of this, or do you think that he's just like kind of like got the whole package?
I mean, I still think he's the most like complete ADC in NA. I haven't played against him in a long time, but I mean it happened some. I mean, I can remember some maybe from like last year, but I think they didn't really lose. Like the best of 5 they played in summer that they lost, I didn't think they lost like because of. I think he was just playing Yume Ezreal every game and going even or even winning lane, but it felt like they just, I don't know, they just weren't as good as they were before, right? So they were just losing the game. So I remember sensing that he just can't do much in a lot of the games. That it legit did not come down to him performing or not in the games because of different reasons. So I still value him like extremely highly, and maybe I'm copiuming, but I think this guy is for sure best in NA, and I think he'll perform.
No, Crowder just sees Sven run it down mid, and he's like, "Yeah, he played it perfectly. Like, what could he do here?"
I knew you would like make a joke. You can make a joke with me running down mid now. Like, it's perfect timing, though. You can.
Thing is, though, look at that particular position, and that also shows you like the flaws of all the teams that are made in NA. Like, look who he's competing with for the championship. So Sven is competing against Lost, Tactical, and FBI. Like, did NA also just wake up and just go, right, if you're a good ADC for one split, you're just a good ADC forever? Like,
I mean, NA just
what the fuck?
Yeah, NA just imported supports. No, they just chose that support was a more important role than
which
ADC.
I like. I actually thought that was like a smart thing to do.
Really, I mean, I think also like a big reason was like that the Oceanic players became residents, so they were just like, oh, we can take Oceanic players for ADC. Like there's like 3 or something, maybe even 4, 3 I think. But
OC always had good mechanics. Like those 380 carries in OC when I was there that I thought had like good enough mechanics. Raze kind of fell off to me, but it was Raze, Lost, and FBI. I thought all 3 of these guys actually have decent mechanics, and kind of makes sense when you look at like the OC region because they play on ridiculously low ping. Like pretty much everyone, like if you know how Australia works, almost everyone's on the East Coast. Like there's Perth, and those people get 60 ping, but
you basically can't play with the other coast as far as I know. It's like too far away or something.
No, I mean they can. It's 60 ping. It's like how NA is all the time, but like most of their players play on like between like 18 to like 30 ping if they live in either like Sydney or Brisbane, Gold Coast, or Melbourne. So it makes sense that they have decent mechanical players. I just think that like if you generally look at our region, even outside of them, I think that we have just in NA have more AD carry talent than support talent. So that's like why I like it overall. That was the mentality.
But AD like, I mean, then it's just a question. We can just go back to development because, like, okay, somebody can be good mechanically, but that's like a baseline for even playing LCS or LDC. Like, if you're not good mechanically on ADC, then you're not. It's just
why are you in the league?
Then you're just Jezu, right? Like what the fuck?
I mean, no, I don't think his mechanics are bad. I don't want to like flame this guy. Yeah, I know. Like, I don't want to flame this guy like to the ground. Like, I think every ADC that plays like in a league, like everybody's good mechanic. Like, it's literally what the role is like based on mostly. I mean, I don't know, in my mind, like if you want to be like a good best of 5 team, you need your carries need to be good players, because that's what the best of 5s come down to. It will always come down to team fights. You can be like, yeah, okay, like Sword Art, he's gonna win us the map and do this, but if his ADC can't play team fights, and they're probably not gonna win best of 5s. That's literally how the game works in my mind. Like maybe I'm completely delusional, but yeah, maybe maybe teams. I think the logic of the teams was, if we bring in veteran like supports, they can help develop again the word, right? Develop the AD carries and make them into like good team fighters, because they have probably this perception from the past where like Mata played with so many like rookie ADCs and he made them look better, and I think it's just wrong.
It's like a classic narrative, of course. Yeah,
of course. Like, oh, the ADC is the talented mechanical one, and the support is the old wise person that teaches you how to play League, you know, how to navigate life. Yeah, I don't know. But I think it's legit depends on the player. It's not like you can just take an experienced support, take a rookie ADC, and that support is just gonna teach the ADC everything. Because from like, I don't know, from I played with rookie supports mostly, and I think they develop very well. Like Limit is rookie support, Kaiser rookie support, Labro was a rookie support, all of them, and I think a lot of people would rate them quite high, right? Like gameplay wise, I don't know, they're all rookies. Like I'm sure there is some rookie talent in NA on support, like one, and not even NA, by the way. It's not even NA. You can just take a Oceanic support. If there's 3 Oceanic support. AD carries, there must be one support, like one.
It's Destiny. There it is.
There you go. It was him after all.
Actually, no.
There's Isles. Isles is actually.
There's the Isles. Yeah, there's Isles. I heard some stuff about Isles Spring, but now he's in C9 Academy. Do you think he's gonna play?
I actually think C9 Academy is better than like some of the bottom teams.
Yeah, but do you think he's gonna play LCS? It's not in C9. Right?
Well, this is the thing.
Good thing is he can go from stacking in League of Legends to stacking the Isles in the supermarket next year when his whole career's being gone. You know.
What the hell, man? He's a promising player. You just had to flame him. Like...
Listen, I've heard enough of your promising players. People are promising he fucking definitely is going to develop like 6 years.
All right, I never promised that shit. No,
I know it's true. You didn't. People did.
I think he's good. The thing is, like the one topic this kind of leads into before we get off on A is like academy buyouts, right? Like if you're in an academy team, like Isles is not gonna have a cheap buyout. He's not gonna be like Johnson cost $300,000 to go from fucking amateur to LCS. So like you have a player like Isles, somebody's gonna have to fucking pay for them to be in LCS. So it's not really a matter of if he's good enough. It's like if he's good enough and is one of the teams that needs a support willing to fucking pay for him and take the chance, because they actually have to put their money where their mouth is. They can't just like take the risk. They have to take the risk and lose the money.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, I think he's good enough to play like 100% to play an LCS, but for sure, like the buyout is a factor. I mean, maybe like he can actually show good enough games in academy to actually be bought out eventually. But I've heard promising things about him in the past. So
he looks good when you watch him play. He looks at least talented. He looks talented at the role. All right, so let's jump into EU playoffs. We spent enough time on NA. Let's jump into EU. So I guess the series that I would like to talk about first, we'll lead into the Rogue Mad Lions later, but let's talk about G2 Schalke, because I think this series was a lot different than people expected. Like for me personally, you know, you always kind of expect G2 to not look amazing in the winners bracket. Like they consistently will lose a series that you wouldn't expect them to, and then, you know, bring it back when shit really hits the fan. But to me, they seemed like way farther off than they normally do. Like they actually looked, to me, it looked like they were trying harder, and just like based on their expressions and stuff, it looked like something was actually going wrong. Do you have like any idea why they looked so poor against Schalke? Because most people's perception coming into this was, oh shit, it's on stage. Well, that's G2's like home, you know, like they're going to look so much better than every other team. To me, it actually looked like stage made them like play like a little bit more nervously, or like they looked like they were more affected by the stage than some of the other teams.
I mean, I think they were like 2-0 up, and then in the third draft they got a bit cocky. Like I saw their like my check, and they just banned nothing. Like they just let it run out. And then like that game they lost, and then the fourth game I think they were just contesting way too much early, like on the Vayne Alistar lane when they were like level 3. Then they were like 0 point. They gave up like a ton of kills early, and then they managed to come back. And the like Smite was a bit unlucky, so they lost that game. Like I think if they win that game, you can still say they're a bit shaky because they like lost one game, and one game they were like hard losing early, like the fourth one, right? But since they lost the fourth one, then fifth one they're winning, and they threw again. I guess like it's you can say they were like looked a bit shaky, but like would you say this is more shaky than they were last spring when they lost, right? Because they actually lost
to Mad Lions. Well, I would say that Mad Lions looked like they were like a much stronger opponent than Schalke looked like. Like I felt like Schalke is not actually that good. Like I expect Fnatic to beat Schalke in the next round. So I guess that's where like I kind of differentiate the two series. Is before I thought that Caps was like a lot worse on AD carry than like I think Caps is just pretty much running it down on AD carry. So in that matchup, I thought Mad Lions had like a much more even playing field in terms of like raw skill. And that G2, was much less proven. Like this G2, I feel like should be an upgrade to last year's G2 by getting like a really strong AD carry, at least at this point in the season. And yeah, I was just surprised that it looked as bad as it did.
I mean, I was surprised too. Like even the game, like Reckless had to go like 16-2 on Ashe, and the kills were almost even. It was like crazy, bro. Like they were just taking every fight.
And, Jesus Christ, 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was also a bit surprised, but generally with G2, like it just feels like they always adapt well and get better as players go on. So like I would still always bet on them, even if they look a bit shaky. There's like still a week between their, or like from their last one to this one. There's at least a week, right? And they don't play. They play last, right? Because they're like top of winners bracket, and they will see every team play. And in my mind, like they will still be favored for everything. I guess you can like say they struggled a bit, but I'd still bet on them always. But they did look a bit shaky. Like I mean, I think I said this on the last show. I literally thought they lost the game when they all got aced mid at minute 21 or something, and the Jinx got so many reset skills. The Azir, I thought it was over, but then they just showed like the one thing you can say, like even the fourth game when they were losing hard against the Vayne, they clawed back. They literally started winning from being behind like 0-6 at minute 4. Like they did this, and their map play is always good, right? The thing about G2 is like even if they are losing positions, they know how to play the map properly and tempo and all of this to create comeback opportunities and good fights and this. So you can never like there's no G2 game where like, oh my god, like they're doomed, right? Like there's no
they're
G2
playing
game where
against like Dom1 game 4, then it's just fucking the 19.
Well, maybe, but that's I mean Damon stomped every single team there, no? So it's like of course like sure, like let's say like in EU, like even against SKT they were losing some games, but they just played silence better, where like Wunder and Caps went on one side, like one of them shadowed the other and they killed Khan, and like this sort of creative things, right, that you see mostly from G2 in EU, that you like I don't know, I never count them out. Like I think most teams would lose at that point, like when it's 0-6, but when I saw G2, like then they get a random 4-4-0 trade bot lane and they start actually like winning the map. It's like really nice to watch, right? This is why I would never bet against this team. So
do you just think that they're gonna like have not much competition? Do you think they're gonna pretty much like level up and stomp their way through the rest of the bracket?
I mean, I think they can still maybe have like a close series, like close.
Can Mad Lions beat them? Is it possible Mad Lions can beat them?
I think Mad Lions can be, if they play like they played. Like, I think Mad Lions can beat them. Like, I mean, the thing is like, it's kind of hard to rate. Like, would you say Mad Lions Rogue was higher level than Schalke G2, or not? Like from watching,
maybe a little bit. Or was
it like kind of even? Maybe a little bit, right? Like it's kind of hard to rate teams because, I mean, most of the teams played against each other in scrims anyway. So the deeper the playoffs goes, like the more they know each other, and the one that has like the most adaptability and like creativeness wins. I still think that's gonna be G2. Like I think Mad Lions can for sure take games of them though, like for sure.
Kind of random question, but did you actually watch the mic check?
Yeah.
The mic check.
Watch it, yeah.
What did you think about like? Because this is something that actually like bothered me quite a bit, but I didn't see many people talk about. I like was actually tilted listening to like Trymbi's.
I know you are. I know you're gonna say that. You're gonna say that.
I'm really tilted because I feel like those types of shit. Like I feel like that type of shit, like in like on stage, is just like super fucking annoying, and it just clutters the comms, and it's like really unnecessary. I don't know. It feels like overly forced. What's your mentality on that? Because like, like that's Rogue hasn't played on stage in a while. Like, do you think that's something that just happened because of stage?
I mean, he's also like a rookie, I guess. But even from before clips, it seems like he calls a lot. And like, I mean, that's one thing that LS stresses, that he liked the like Griffin comms the most. And then I actually went to watch Griffin comms, and there's like they're like playing a team fight in enemy base with Nash, and it's like a finals against SKT, right? Like two huge, insane teams, and they're winning the team fight, and then you just hear them say, "Okay, we can end. Careful, Lucian, he's strong." There's no way. And then focus this guy, we can kill this guy. It's complete calmness,
it's like, what
right?
the fuck, man? Like, what do you think I'm gonna do? What do you think I'm gonna do in game? You think I'm just gonna stop hitting everything? I was just gonna fucking DC and run back towards my base. Like, shit, thank God you fucking told me to go in here.
I think that one is like way too much, because there's an Alistar with no flash, and your Aphelios has 50 chakrams, and your Lucian is there.
And they're already doing the right thing, you know?
And they're already killing him, right? And you say, if you say, I'll no flash, Ali, and you didn't say it like, I think it was like 15 times, and you say it like with a strong voice, I think it can be a bit too much. Like, it's not like your teammates are
I mean,
blind.
Yeah, his teammates are better than him.
I would bring it up after game. Like, I would bring it up
for
personally.
Sure. For sure.
I think
I
it's
would
like
be the type
insane.
of person
Like,
that would be like, yeah,
it's so fucking stressful, you know. Like, yeah, like, come on, like, we can all take supports with no flash, you know. Like, for sure. I think I remember watching Griffin comms, right, and seeing that they were literally like in enemy base playing a close team fight, and they just say, kill Shen. They kill the Shen. Okay, we can look to end here. Careful, Lucian is strong. And then they're hitting for 10 seconds and nobody says anything. And then they say, okay, nice. That's literally, there's no talk for 10 seconds. People are just focusing on you know, doing stuff like that.
It's just like, what type of key information do you need in that fight that's actually going to change the way you play? Like, at some point, I think you're distracting players from being able to like focus.
It's distracting for sure.
You're also going to make, like, especially if you're a rookie doing that, you're going to make other people nervous. Yeah. Like, your voice carries an urgency that's like, shit, it's all fucking up. What's going on? Like the reason why the approach he's talking about is awesome is because even though you are under a super stressful situation, like, you haven't got time to worry. You have to just execute. So it's like, right, we've got to kill him first. Like, you do this. Okay. It's better to have like a cool, chill vibe like that. Like, if someone's just panicking like that, for sure, that's going to fucking put you over the edge, I think.
I mean, I think from the mic check, from the comms, I think Reckless had like really good one. He was like very calm, and there was like one fight where he was just Oriana was on him, and until he flashed over and was safe, then he said Oriana flash, but he was like screaming, guys, Oriana me, Oriana, you know, like very calm, like very. You can see this guy has been playing for like 8 years, right? Like, I think there's a huge difference, like.
And he's still 6 years younger than me. Okay. All right. Thanks.
It's okay, Dom. It's okay. No, but
I'll definitely
for sure,
be around by the end of his career. I definitely will be in the fucking.
I mean, you will, bro. You will.
No, but man, I'm just looking forward to what, like 10 years from now, when it's like fucking Corby, where they're just like, you know, the Cadrel used to play League of Legends back in the day. Like, wow, all right, well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, when they try and claim like Corby was a pro, so I'm like, I was at that World Cyber Games. It was 4 teams.
Yeah, and he wasn't even on the team.
I think
a sub.
For sure, it's a bit too much. Like, I mean, I can understand. Like, I can see why a rookie, like when he's 1-2 down and he sees they're like winning, you know, I can see why he would do that. But I mean, I'd imagine it was addressed. Like, for sure, like someone like ODominate noticed that. Like, he's played in a ton of teams, so I guess we can see how it will be later. But for sure, that's stressful. Like, everyone who has ever like played in a team in a best of 5 knows that's stressful. Like, when you have people screaming into your ears.
I mean, I just feel like it's really
the most obvious thing ever. It's, I mean, of course, like, you can put a gold player, you can put not even gold, you can put someone that doesn't play ranked, you can put him a freeze frame, and you're like, okay, Alistar no flash, like, who should Aphelios focus here with his 30 chakrams? Should he push the wave or should he kill the support, you know? Like, I guess he's like a rookie, and it was his first best of 5 on stage, so you could see the nerves getting to him, but
yeah. I just thought it'd be good to address the pro player, because I feel like a lot of people like they're like, oh, that was interesting, because they don't know what it's like to be like in the community. They don't know what comms are normally like, but I just feel like that is super like, yeah.
I mean, that is way too much for sure. Yeah, but yeah. I can imagine. That's why, again, like, I was very impressed when I actually watched like Korean comms. It was very calm.
Yeah, I
mean, calm and.
I also like I mean, people will say Yankelis is really loud, but generally speaking, after watching a lot of his voice comms, it feels like he says things that are like, in the team fight, he's saying things that actually matter. Where he's like, this guy has no flash, he's dead, you can help this guy, play with this, like, he's saying different things. Like, I feel like repeating the same thing over and over again is really unnecessary, but like being able to identify other things that might be able to change people's perception of the fight, it's like, okay, like it looks like a 3v4, but if you make a certain call out, then it will change. It'll be like, oh, Ori actually has no mana. Where then your team will be like, okay, well, if Orianna has no mana, then she's pretty much useless. So it's not that bad of a situation, even though we're like down a mana or whatever. I feel like there's things that matter and there's things that don't. And over communicating the obvious, I feel like it's just a way to like get shot calling points without actually shot calling.
If people just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, they just hope they make a call that's good. Another one I think's mad underrated, because it comes from Counter-Strike, where people don't think about it in League, is there's certain times, like AD Carry's a perfect example. Like if I'm in a team fight and I'm, say, the jungler and I'm already dead in the team fight, maybe I was like the engaged player or something. If I'm dead and the AD Carries are alive, why don't I come for him so he doesn't have to speak? All now he has to do is hit people. Like there's times where like people actually should also be smart about how they cover each other.
Yeah, that's good, because Jankos dies first every game, so he's just pretty much like the shot caller in every single team fight, you know?
One of the best like communicating I've seen was when Uzi played the Messiah, and he played he had QSS, and he knew like that his QSS was around same cooldown as Praise, and
yes,
he called like, oh, no QSS, we can go on him, and in team fights he was like, okay, I need to dive backline, shield me here. Like he was calling everything, right? Like that's good comms, because every single thing he says is gonna like aid his team in knowing what to do. Like he says, oh, enemy no QSS. Of course, Jezu insta knows, okay, I'm gonna flash ult. Like it insta clicks in his brain, right? But when you're like over communicating, yeah, Ali no flash. Like I mean, it's not like your teammates are gonna do something else, right? So for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm super over all those like vein comms. It's like hit. It's like, please,
yeah, I mean, like when the vein is like yeah, like you can say like focus vein, but like you don't need to say vein like 12 times. It's not like your Azir is gonna go on the Alistar, right? He's obviously gonna focus the vein. But I mean, again, I think it's for sure nerfs to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I guess it's have to see if it changes or not, but I would imagine it got addressed.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, what do you think about the series overall? Because that was a huge upset.
Yeah.
Mad versus Rogue, or at least I think the community perception was that it's a huge upset.
Yeah, I mean, I can like from what I talked on like analyst on Twitter. I think after they won the first game, I think they got a bit cocky with the draft, because I think their bot lane matchup is just not like, in my mind, like from what the series, at least early series, like Odo was winning lane stop and they were like counter picking mid, so Larssen was winning, right? So all they had to do bot was survive, because I mean, I can imagine if you have two winning lanes, you're generally gonna be in a good spot, right? And they picked bot lane matchups with Senna Cho, and they had cleanse TP against Heal Ignite. And then first game, I think Mad Lions messed up, right? Like they messed up and they end up dying level 6. But second game, they played well. They killed the Cho, and they killed the Senna, then they kill again. And then the Jinx was like Omega fed, right? And after that, third game, sorry, I'm just trying to remember. It was the Vayne game. I think it was the Kai'Sa to Vayne. I thought it's gonna go well. Like they even killed 2v2 bot lane level 1, and they're winning lanes. But I think they were just getting out. Like I think Mad Lions drafted more for team fights. They had like Orianna, better scaling AD carries pretty much every game. So they were like playing mostly for that. And Rogue was playing more to win lane, I suppose. And they just threw. Like I think fourth game, I thought it was 100% won. It was like
same.
3 Drakes. The 5-0 of Helios with 3 items. Like he ended up going Infinity Edge against, and the Urgot got so fed that the Urgot was just unkillable. And they messed up like a 4th Drake setup where Aphelios had the Gravitum and the purple and the green guns, which are like the worst ones to fight, right? And then I think Cyan and his support were like a bit forward, and they got slapped, and the fight was very and half of them were like doing the Drake, and half of them were like trying to fight. So they lost that fight, and they just started losing. But I think if they played that fight better, it would be 2-2. And then obviously nobody can predict how fifth game would go. But I felt like Mad Lions were just drafting more for team fights. Like they always had Orianna mid,
Volibear jungle.
Yeah, like Volibear, like Vayne,
Wukong, Malphite top.
Yeah, exactly. Jinx. Like that, they even had to ban the Jinx for 3. Like all you had to do, in my opinion, to like not have that problem. It's just like either you can just pick the tank and like if your mid top are winning every game because you draft for it, and your only job is to not die to any button, then you can just play Senna tank and like it's not like Trymbi's show was insane, right? Like you could see even against
Senna was
Fnatic.
banned Wait, was Senna banned? No, Senna was first picked.
The first two games, the first two games. I don't know what happened after. I don't remember, but I think they banned it after Jinx was banned, but I'm 100% sure. Like mad, but like even against Fnatic, he barely survived level 4 on the gank, you know. And if he doesn't survive there, and the Aphelios gets the kill, and then your Cho Senna has no sums against Gragas Aphelios Trash, you're gonna die again. So maybe they got like I don't know how scrims went for them, but in my mind that those matchups are not nice to play. Like when you're forced to go cleanse on Senna, and Senna is like known for being extremely squishy. And
Jinx that's why you always run Tom Kench with it, right? Like so that you have to get out of jail free.
Like the difference is when you draft Senna Tankage, you're drafting like protection for the Senna to be safe to get souls, but when you draft like Senna Cho, you're like trying to enable the other champ like Cho.
Yeah, Cho's trying to be the carry.
Last year. Yeah, exactly. But your Cho is not gonna like he should be behind if the enemy like Volibear Trash Jinx against Lilia Senna Cho, like come on, you know, you have early game jungler that has a stun, a slow. I will always bet on the Trash Jinx to get ahead there. And then after, I mean, I think they just got out teamfighted because even the fourth game they were ahead. Like everybody would say they would win, and they were just losing teamfights towards the end.
I mean, I just feel like the champions that they played were just much harder to execute. Like I think if you're not super top tier, like sure champions like Lucian. I mean, when you look at like mid jungle combinations, right? You have things like Lucian and Nidalee, right? Or you have Graves plus Azir. When you're drafting like those types of comps, it feels like you just have to win through Prio. You know, like your laner is gonna have Prio in his lane, and then you have like the jungler that's stronger early, and you like have to continually invade. But you don't have like the tools to like necessarily set each other up that other champion synergies have. So I feel like that might be a thing for Rogue looking forward, is do they want to continue playing that style? Because they played it a lot throughout the split, but I don't actually think that that's what they're best at. Like when I think of Rogue, I don't think of like Larssen, Lucian, and you know, like inspired on champions like Nidalee. I thought that the best comps for them are when, you know, Inspired has more playmaking potential in team fights. I feel like he's probably one of the best engagers they have on their team. So if you put him on something like Lilia or Hecarim, I feel like he'll be able to get his team in a lot more advantaged situations. Do you think that they'll actually keep on like sticking to their style of Graves, Nidalee with Prio mid matchups, or do you think that they're going to kind of revert back to like more playmaking junglers and things like that?
I mean, there's something I would like to highlight. Like, even if you watch Schalke against G2, like Schalke was winning every game with Orianna. They were like, or like even there's one or like Orianna Hecarim comps were like winning so much. Like in the end, it's just about like, are you more comfortable playing Nidalee Lucian and knowing you have to be insanely ahead, or are you more comfortable playing Orianna, Hecarim, just being even and then one-shotting people in fights? And I think in best of fives, it will always gravitate to scaling eventually. Maybe for best of ones, it's actually better to just play Lucian Nidalee and stomp people, right? Like just go like 5k up at 20 minutes. But every team ended up actually drafting scaling in the end, like more scaling. Like I think it was either in the G2 Schalke series or in the SK Fnatic, I was constantly saying that I think Orianna is like a huge deal. Like when I saw Blue pick Ahri against Ori, I was like, come on, like this Orianna is just gonna carry. Like, I would like I don't like Ahri, you know, just a disclaimer. I think very hard to pull this off. Like I think you have to be very good, and I would always give the advantage to Ori. And Mad Lions was constantly picking the Ori, and yeah, maybe she's gonna be like 10-20 CS down, but when you have Orianna Hecarim or Orianna Volibear and then like a melee support and the outscaling AD carry, so that the Azir has space in fights. He doesn't have space to hit even if he's 30 CS up. And it's the same with Lucian. Like one team has let me remember quickly. So it's Urgot, Lilia, TF, Kai'Sa, Alistar, I guess. I don't remember this ADC. And the other has like Lucian Nidalee, right? Like Lucian Nidalee, Aphelios, Trash. That's like 4 champs that if you break like the formation of Lucian, Nidalee, Aphelios, they're gonna just melt, right?
Yeah, everyone just dies.
Yeah, like, of course laning is hard. Like it's hard to play bot lane early into Aphelios Rush if they play very well like they did. It's hard. You will be behind no matter what. But I mean that was like a huge thing I saw in the playoff series. I felt like Orianna. There was one team first pick Hecarim, I believe, but the other got like Orianna or something. Or I felt like the Orianna teams were actually winning so much. I don't know her win rate in playoffs, but to me it felt like she won a lot.
Yeah,
I just feel like
champion team's really strong.
yeah, I mean, I feel like teams will for sure.
Well, if you think about Larssen, he's like a great
Yeah,
Orianna player, right?
she's
Like,
6-1 actually. She's 6-1 in playoffs. Like I knew like she just won every game that was. Yeah, I mean they're all really good Orianna players. Like every mid can play Orianna. You know, like that's like a.
yeah, sure.
I mean,
I always thought
playoffs,
Larssen was on a different level though. Like, I mean, Humanoid
Yeah,
is
yeah,
It's
actually
probably his
like
best champion. Yeah.
Yeah, I
like-
mean Larssen Orianna, like Caps Larssen, they play like it's been meta for a while now, and from what I see right now, if the support is melee, if the jungler is Hecarim, Lilia, or Volibear, if top laners are bruisers, and your ADC is like, I mean, it's just an ADC, whatever. Like, it's not really utility.
yeah,
it's
AD
like
carry
pure-
role doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, it's not like AD carry
No,
role is strong. But I was saying like,
I'm just
okay, you have a
joking, man.
Jinx,
Jesus,
what's
let me just
perfect?
fuck with you, like, Jesus.
So, like if you have a Jinx, what's perfect? Oh, I need an Orianna. Oh, if I have a Kai'Sa Hecarim rare comp, what's good? Orianna is good here. Like, yeah, right. So I just feel like champions like this will be always very, very high value in games like this. So I feel like this. I'm sure Rogue will switch to this. Like that's my prediction. I have no clue. Maybe they still feel like they can execute the Lucian Italy comps, but I'm sure they were like frustrated at losing. Right, everybody feels bad when you're like 3 Drakes to 0 and you feel like the game is like in your hands and then you just lose. I also prefer like the Orianna comps and stuff. I feel like it's just less. I think you play those ones if you're
way
100%
easier.
sure you're just gonna. Yeah, it's easier. It's less pressure on the players. Like especially in best of fives when you're 1-2 down. Like, if you feel super desperate, you can just go like completely early game, like just stomp them in 15, 20 minutes or lose. But I think champs like Orianna, like Hecarim was also like huge prior, right? Because Alistar I think has insane win rate as well in playoffs. I think every Alistar I see just has insane impact because it's just it just has so many opportunities, right? So many flanks, so much disruption. It pairs very well with like every ADC. So I would like if I had to predict, I would say for sure it's gonna go back to control mages for them.
So if you think that Rogue does
but
this, do you think that they'll make the final? Because most people are kind of hyping up like a G2 Rogue final. Like this is the best version of Rogue we've had, and you know like G2 is G2. They always win. So like who do you think is going to actually make that final? Do you think it's going to be Fnatic, Mad Lions, Rogue? I mean, it could be Schalke, I guess, if you want to, be really crazy.
I mean, I'm just trying to imagine the bracket. So it's
Fnatic versus Schalke first. Like, yeah, we can do it like that. So Fnatic versus Schalke first. Like, I assume you think Fnatic will win?
Yeah, I would prefer Fnatic. Like, I just think Fnatic is clutch, you know. The bot lane plays very high level. Niski was playing really well. I just feel like they will win. I'm not sure. Like, it's probably going to be very bloody because both teams like to fight. So it's going to be very, like, super skirmish heavy. So there might be some champs that will be very highly contested. But I think Fnatic will come out on top. And then winner of that plays loser
Rogue.
of... oh, no, yeah, sorry.
So winner of that plays Rogue. So Fnatic versus Rogue.
Let's say it's Rogue Fnatic. I mean...
That's a hard one.
Yeah, that is a hard one. Because, like, in the end, like, first of all, I think Trymbi didn't... Like, Kai'Sa played better than him for sure. The question is, like, how is he going to play in his next BO5? He's going to have, like, a lot of days to like prepare to watch Fnatic play, right? They're gonna have time to fix their like draft priorities if they think they were wrong, right? So I think the winning like the team that's waiting always has an advantage, right? So maybe like it's so hard to predict. It's like so impossible. I don't even know. Like I think maybe if Rogue play the like controlled style, the slow style, I think I have them favored.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I'll tell you is now that you're on the prediction side of things, you have to predict, and if you're wrong, I'm gonna flame you. So.
Okay, sure. Okay. Okay. I mean, I will predict Rogue. I will predict Fnatic and then like Rogue, but I think it will be close series for sure. And then
it'll be Rogue versus Mad, the rematch.
Man, it's like so hard. Like you were putting me on the spot, like hard here.
Exactly. That's what makes it fun, though.
Yeah,
people want to know your actual opinions.
I mean, actually, Rogue and Mad Lions will both play one series, right? So both teams will have. So we're assuming that.
So we're assuming that G2 beats Mad Lions. Mad Lions gets sent to the losers bracket. Rogue has just beat Fnatic. Now you have Rogue versus Mad Lions. Winner of this goes to the final.
Smoke the whole copium with Rogue and just say Rogue.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say Rogue. I'm gonna say Rogue. Like I can imagine they will fix their stuff and win. Like, I think
I have a problem with Rogue, and it goes like this, because I don't see anyone else even talk about this, right? Here's how you know that someone actually thinks you're one of the best players in the league. When you don't perform, you get flamed. That's supposed to go hand in hand. It's how you know, by the way, that, like, I made this point about the 100 Thieves team, Dom. Everyone was hyping that team, only in the context that they were GGS last year, mate. GGS isn't even supposed to be, they're supposed to be like barely a playoff team. The idea they could ever like beat a TSM, maybe go to Worlds, that they were in position to, that's what's amazing. But when you take those players and put them on 100 Thieves, a team that's already at the level that GGS had just got to, now you know people didn't actually buy that those players are all super sick. Otherwise, they'd be flaming the fuck out of them now. Like, where are they all? Now people are just like, well, I guess some days not as good, but aside from that, you know, the team just doesn't work, right? I've heard all split long this year that I'm supposed to believe that Inspired's actually like low-key the sleeper OP jungler in the whole league. He's better than Yankor, he's better than soft mid. In fact, fans, idiot G2 fans want them to recruit Inspired next year, not South mids. Okay, put that one fucking by the by. Goes without saying, like, actually Larssen probably never does quite get his credit, but in the regular split, he's always one of the best mid laners, always looks like fabulous. It's very, he has bad games. Where are these motherfuckers when the playoffs come around? The second the playoffs come around, these guys just bounce. It's like they think they're fucking playing in Crownshot's career. They just have one series and we're off for the split. No, there's fucking more than that.
On,
like
right?
you're supposed to be favoured. Yeah, at least he was the underdog though. At least he understood that. Listen, you have to understand.
Shots for no reason. Look at
Crownshots comms were amazing at the end of games, because at the end of games they wouldn't say anything. They just go, right, well, you'll maybe be in Schalke, I'll be in fucking Mad Lions. See you next year. That would be the end of his fucking year every year. No, they weren't like defend the base, kill him, kill. Like.
I actually think Inspired is like, I mean, the person that I'm the lowest on Rogue is Trymbi. I just think that Trymbi.
I mean, that goes
really
without saying, of course.
Yeah, I don't think that Inspired or Larssen. Like, I think Larssen definitely has more of like the choking elements or underperforming in clutch moments than Inspired. I think Inspired actually like does what he's supposed to do, but at the end of the day, he's not picking picks where he can really make like a mark on the team fight. Like you're playing a fucking Nidalee or a Graves. Like you got to rely on your fucking support to make shit happen, and it's just not happening.
I think Inspired is the best player on Rogue. I would say. I think if Trymbi steps up, then they win those series, because I think they're still like good team for sure. But if he's gonna like play bad, I think support is very strong right now. Like it has a lot of agency in games with the champions right now. It always comes down to engages and like flanks with Alistar and Rel, right? So you're like Gragas is a huge pick now into Alistar as well. So if your support plays
in
that
Asian leagues mainly though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it got shown in Schalke against G2, which I really like, because I feel like people are getting a bit too away with blinding Alistar every game, no matter what. You know, if you do that in Asia, you play against Gragas and you're 20 CS down, no matter what. But my point is like, for sure, support has a lot of agency now, so if he plays well, then I think they win. But if he's gonna like have struggles on stage, then it might be harder.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like they need to realize like what team they have and put the engage on someone else. Like let Odo pick your engages. Like instead of playing like these Jace comps and things like that, let Odo be the one that can engage or follow up engage, and let Inspired engage for you, because it seems like those are the people that are able to like see the opportunities, where it always feels slightly delayed or something for Trymbi. Like it never feels like when I'm watching Trymbi that he's like pulling the trigger himself. It's like, almost like somebody's like, all right, we can fight here. And then he's like, okay, I'm looking for it. It's like they got to like give him the permission to, you know, engage a fight, which maybe that's just how they play. And, you know, like they just are careful about their engages, but it's something that I'm definitely considering a lot of the time with the team. One thing that I wonder is like, I wonder what the environment is like within the team. Like, I wonder if like Trymbi feels like uncomfortable, and maybe he feels like he's the lowest man on the totem pole, or how they're masking it. Because I know with teams, that's normally an issue that happens, is the person that's underperforming starts to feel the pressure from the rest of the team, that like everyone kind of like thinks he sucks, and then they like start performing worse as a result. Like that's kind of something that I would love to see like behind the scenes, is like, does the team like or how committed are they with Trymbi? Like, does he feel like he's part of the team? Like, does he know that he's like, do they still have faith in him at least?
I mean, I would imagine that. I have no clue. Like, again, like I don't want to speculate anything because I actually have no clue. But
That's the whole point of speculation.
I know.
I know.
That's also the whole point of the entire show, Crownshot. So go ahead and do that. In fact, go ahead and do that.
Okay, I will. Yeah. So I'm being a bit of a coward, but I mean, I would imagine a player like Odo knows how to motivate. Like he's been in like the.
I actually feel like this might be one of Odo's flaws. Like from what I've heard with Schalke is that. Like, it might be the type of thing where he's not the best at, like, picking up a bad player and be like, hey, man, like, you got what it takes, kid. I believe in you.
Bro,
like,
he's a bit more in the, put it this way, he's a bit more in the SOAS camp where it's not, they just sort of quietly whine that the game's going bad and then do their job.
I mean,
as far as I've heard, he wasn't some, like, super motivator. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know, but I think it's a hard thing to do, a hard skill to have, by the way, because... You have to be very like empathetic.
Like stoicism and stuff.
Yeah,
you can just like take it yourself. It's so hard
because it has to also like look sincere. You know, it can be like, "Hey, man, I know like play." You know, like, it has to be like sincere. Otherwise, the guy is just gonna see through it. Like I've had situations where I've had to motivate people.
Yeah, Zazie, I think you're actually great and will definitely be in LEC next year.
Oh, there was that time that Selfmade turned to Nemesis and he goes, you know what? I actually believe in your Velcos, so let's just pick this and beat this fucking top esports and then boom worlds, mate. You know what? Me and you together forever. What's that? It's outright fucking. Yeah. Get anyone in. Get fucking Nisky. That's how little I respect
I still believe in your Lee Sin, man. Like, I definitely think you have mechanics to play within LEC.
Trick, let's you and me agree. We're a package in this off-season. If one of us doesn't play an LEC, neither of us play.
Oh, Jesus
maybe that's the real thing he can't reveal. That's what he tried the power move. He tried the power play.
How does this happen? Like every time around, like we start the show like pretty like tame, and then by like an hour and 50 minutes in, we're just flaming everyone. Like I don't know, it just evolves into this every fucking time. But I mean,
the problem is he also like drew it out of us by trying to do that thing like, well, I wouldn't want to speculate because I'm not actually in. I'm not actually in Schalke in all fair, so I can't comment on what would happen. We got Crowdy's press agent. Where's he at? Where's the press agent?
No, I mean, okay. We can. So we want to turn spicy now or what? Like, what do you guys want from me? I'm 10th place. You know, I'm shit. I'm garbage.
I've got a question for you. Right, so one of the things I find, like for me, I can't lie, the first round of the playoffs in LEC has basically ruined LEC playoffs for me, because when I look at it now, I just think to myself, if I'm G2, I'm laughing all the way to the fucking bank. So the two teams that are supposed to contest me is Mad Lions, which again has rookie players for LEC in it, and then Rogue, which is like technically sort of not rookies, but they are, and they still have fucking choking problems, or some busted up Fnatic team does a miracle run and maybe can meet me in the final. Like, I'd be laughing all like. It feels like I can't lose in that scenario. Like we were saying about the Schalke series. Like G2 played whack in a couple of the games and they still win the series. Like their idea is like, but we almost beat them. Like that's the sign you're a champion right there, where people almost beat you. They don't even actually beat you. So my problem is this, right? If we go the other way, if someone has a chance against G2, right, pick a player, it can be on any of the other three teams. Because I'm acting like Schalke's probably not going to make it. So I'm taking it as Rogue, Mad Lions, Fnatic. These are the teams that we actually care about that could do something against G2, right? Which player has to like perform way better or be at his peak to give one of these teams a chance of winning? Like what would be the X factor for you, Crowny? Like if Mad Lions was going to beat G2 in this series, who's the player who has to have like a 6 series, do you think?
I mean, the question is like, who I think has the biggest difference right now, or who would have to like smurf? Like
who would play better, and that would make their team have a chance to beat G2.
I mean,
maybe.
probably Humanoid would have to. I mean, I think it comes down to mid because I don't see anyone like playing better than Reckless in like a best of 5 of the AD carries. So I think it has to be like mid doing difference, or maybe like
kha'zix.
Like, yeah, I mean, support is of course like a big factor, but I still feel like. I think it would have to be mid to have like the biggest noticeable effect. I think also, I mean, like I think when Mad Lions played G2 last time, like they were playing like Rexa into Lilia. Like I don't think that would happen. But that game, Lilia was like doing really well, you know. So he was like a huge factor in their win. But probably generally comes down to mid. The thing with mid right now is that it's mostly just like control mages most of the time. So it's not like one mid will solo kill the other. Play Rise, you know, don't be hack or like play.
Play Rise into Victor, solo kill them level 4. Like that would never happen.
Yeah, that never. I think that never happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really remember it happening.
Why did you start sweating and turn all red the second I mentioned that? Like, come on, man. Like, it's never happened.
Come on. You're making it so hard. Like, anyway.
To be fair, though, I actually thought for your team. To be fair for your team, if they ever have a bad split like that, I think they should do a reality TV show called Orange is the New Whack. And it's the Vitality reality TVs. So.
Okay, man. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm like a tomato right now.
It would also actually fit the theme because obviously that's a show about people who are doing like a long-term prison sentence, and obviously everyone in Vitality's in a Military prison where they don't yet know when they'll be released to play the game again.
Jesus.
So
yeah, Melissa's been having a rough go.
I know it's probably the end of the show. It's fine. Sorry, we're riding up, crowd. Keep going.
No, one guy said that. Cap scared with Lucian game 5. Sure, of course he did, but that's like one game. Like if you look at what like a lot of games, Larssen was 0-0-0 230 CS and Humanoid was 0-0-0 200. So it's not that there was like a lot of action mid lane.
Sure.
Like there's specific methods if you remember where everybody's mid lane level 3 and like the Rise is setting up the wave, and so I mean I think mid lane like should, but maybe even supports, yeah, because like I think if Trymbi really steps up, then like they can maybe beat, but like if Rogue is playing against G2 and Mickey is playing at his usual form, then like, I would always bet on G2, you know.
Caps is this weird thing in lane with Lucian. Like we've seen it twice now. One's versus Rogue and one's versus Schalke here, where he'll play Lucian into a 0, who got absolutely like creamed for the first 3 levels. Like he is just getting like destroyed in lane, loses all his pots, has to TP. The enemy is 0, just has pots as well.
I mean, it happened. I was actually watching. It actually happened against us. He was like playing level 2, and he overtraded. And I think if Militsa traded a bit more, like Caps was kind of faking because he was taking like a bad trade level 2. And I guess people just assume
get scared
that someone
because
is
it's
behind
Lucian.
him. Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, because it's Caps. I think it's because it's Caps.
Oh, I think it's just because Lucian is such like a lane dominant champion that people are like,
maybe.
Like, this guy's like, he's winning lane.
Like, because what happened was he did the same thing against Larssen that he did against us, because you can literally go look at the replay and it's the exact same trade pattern.
But it's a bad trade pattern.
Yeah. It's a bad shot. You know the NBA meme.
Yep.
No, anyway, like Larssen knew it was a bad trade pattern, right? And punished it, and then killed. But then he like didn't TP back or something, and then he died to the gank. But like the initial thing was good because he punished.
Same thing happened in this
Caps being cocky. Exactly. Like I think Humanoid, Larssen, they can they're all very like good in lane and all of this. So it kind of depends how the teams draft in the end. If they draft more for like volatile mid lanes or more for volatility on other lanes, but I think for sure like mid lane can be a big lane. Also against Schalke, like they did focus a lot on bot lane early, like in a lot of the games they're just fighting bot lane a ton. Like Pro Mash, they just double kill level 1, then they play the Kai'Sa against Vayne, they just 4 deaths level 4. So I don't know what this is, like either it's just bot lanes like disrespecting each other a bit, or just the nature of the matchups. Like, of course, when there's melee supporting the melee support, there's a bit more fighting, right? So I think there can also be volatility there. Like, there can just be like huge bot lane skirmishes, and then the team that performs better just wins the game. So
I mean, we see so many of these like bluff trades though, and I've been like talking about it, but how often are we gonna see like a team that has cleanse into heal just stop fighting level 1? Because like it seems so like ridiculous to me. Like I'm not even a bot laner, but if I'm like I have cleanse, which is not even useful at this point because I'm not getting CC'd. Like into heal, I'm not gonna go all in level 1 for no reason.
I mean, did you watch the Shotcalling as G2 where like everyone's playing Brom Ash and Limit just splashes in level 1?
Yeah, he just splashes in level 1 and dies, and it's like, what did you think was gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually ask him because like I've had enough playing Alistar. I'm a level 1 champ, you know. He just like Q flashes in against Brom Ash, and like obviously they just get like double, like they legit get double killed. I think
He just dies.
The AD dies, and he has to. Yeah, one guy has to flash, one guy dies. Like, come on, you know, like you've known the matchup. Like, I guess you're like testing because it's like one game, but generally, like like because if you do these sorts of things, like against top tier bot lanes, like in LPL SK, there's all the horror stories from scrims, you know, where you couldn't even play from level 2 against Dev Carrier, right? And like LPL bot lanes would literally just flash in level 1 and kill you. And if you give those leads to them, like they will not throw, you know. Like
also,
for example,
add some context. Limit's fucking huge, right? So if you're playing on stage and he flash like pulls in, I would be fucking scared too. Like I would just hit the road at that point.
Like had enough, you know. Like you need to be scared. No, but like for example, what I'm trying to say is like if a LPL top tier or a top tier team gets a 2-0-2 Vayne, like 6-0 lead, they're probably not gonna throw it. If they outscale with their lane and you just gave them like so many kills because you disrespect, right? Like I mean, G2 like contested, they were level 2 against 3, and Schalke Wave was slow pushing into them, you know, and they just Mickey like just walks up and gets queued, get flashed, eat into the wall, then the Kai'Sa dies as well, then Jankos goes in and fights and dies. Like that's a bit too much, you know. But I think they will fix these sorts of things for later. So that's why I'll
do you think it has any element of playing on stage once again? Like, do you think that like
I have no clue, man. Like
you haven't played on stage in a long ass time.
Yeah, I can take it, Dom. Come on, more. You know,
okay,
it fuels me. It fuels me for summer. You know, it fuels me. No, but maybe it's just like overconfidence, where they feel like they can just outplay those situations, or maybe they're just maybe it's just overconfident. I have no clue, because I would imagine it's overconfidence. For sure, like probably stage affects it, but it was like game 3, you know. It's not like it's the first game you play on stage after a year, you know. You're already a bit warmed up, so hard to say what it is. Probably overconfidence.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see if the predictions come true. I actually have the same thing as you. I think that's like probably the most standard way to see it, like Fnatic over Schalke, and then Rogue over Fnatic into Rogue beating Mad into the finals. I'm most worried about I'm the most worried about Rogue, because it's one thing that people have kind of like given them credit for. For some reason, when people talk about stage teams, they always flame like Mad Lions. They're like, oh, look at how bad Mad Lions choked in play-ins. But Rogue didn't have a great showing at Worlds. They went 1-5. They lost to a team that they should have beat at least a one time. So they went 1-1 versus the PCS second seed, which is considered like a pretty weak team. And I feel like I think people are giving them too much credit, because it's been so long since we saw Rogue on stage. And like when they were on stage in spring, I mean, last year they were pretty good. But we haven't got to see them under like real pressure in a while. So I'm actually curious if they like are going to be able to pull through, or if they're going to choke, especially like if you look at the roster, right? Like Trymbi seems pretty nervous. And then Odo has always had that like, you know, he's not a finalist. He'll always like be pretty good, but he'll never make a finals. That's how people view him. So it'd be huge if they actually do it.
Does that change your prediction then from Rogue to Mad or Fnatic?
Not really. I think that I think they're a better team than Mad. I really do think they're a better team than Mad. Specifically, just like individually, I think they should be able to win. I've always thought that Larssen has had like a bit of an edge over Humanoid. Like Humanoid can play aggressively and like take over versus a lot of like weaker mids, but it feels like Larssen's approach kind of stonewalls whatever Humanoid tries to do, and I think Larssen is just better at carries and late game team fights than Humanoid. Humanoid kind of has that like he's too far forward, gets caught, or like gets CC'd at a bad time. He kind of has that element to him. I think Inspired's one of the best junglers in the league. I think Odo was outperforming in lane versus Armut. So I think it really is just going to come down to like the bot lane. Like if Rogue's bot lane plays well, I expect the other three to perform better, especially if they make the adaptations we discussed earlier with like picking more mages.
I feel like after they stopped playing the Senna Cho, like the third game they killed 2v2, they won, and then the fourth game they won really hard too. So I feel like Rogue bot lane has an edge in lane as well, for sure. Like maybe it's because they draft more for it, but even they literally blinded Kai'Sa and still managed to like kill level 1, and like they're good in lane. You know, everybody has been talking about them the whole split, that they're very good in lane at punishing. So I would still have them favorite because of this. I still like, because I think Mad Lions rely on Elioya a lot. Like they play around him a lot, but I think Inspired is very good. So I just feel like Rogue has an edge, even though they lost. I mean, the Rogue has to get there though first, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
The thing. Like, they have to beat Fnatic.
They have to beat Fnatic or Schalke, yeah.
Exactly. So the question is like, will Fnatic look less shaky than they did in Best of Ones? Probably. Like, they did look kind of like in the SK series, like they had huge leads from their bot lane, and they're like taking like fights perma as well, you know. So, but maybe they'll clean that up.
It's really hard to predict Fnatic, right? Because like they've looked really good. Like they've looked like probably the second best team in a lot of their wins like earlier on in the season, and now they've lost. Like they obviously got Corona, so people kind of gave them a pass on that last week. And then they didn't look great versus SK, who like I expected them to 3-0. So it's really hard to talk about Fnatic. I mean, I guess you could never really count them out in playoffs, especially like it seems like Bwipo and Hilly do really well in playoffs. I mean, Hilly normally does well the entire time, but Bwipo does well like up until they play against G2 in playoffs. Like a lot of times he'll just like monster some of these other top laners. So that I think that's going to be really interesting to watch if we get to see like Bwipo versus IWDominate in a hype matchup, because I would normally side that towards Bwipo like historically.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I also think their bot lane, like Rogue bot lane, also plays aggressively and looks to punish, but Fnatic is like that even a step above, right? So Fnatic will like, they will dive you level 3, like they don't care if they trade.
Yeah, they'll both die for it, but
they don't care. Yeah, exactly. So it kind of depends on their bot lane, or like on the, not on their bot lane. It just depends on which team like plays better on bot lane. I think there's gonna be a big part. I'm trying to remember the last game they played against each other. I believe it was against Senna Cho. Yeah, it was the Thresher Players against Senna Cho, where it was kind of unlucky because the Cho survived and then like Selfmade flashed and missed, you know. And after that, it's like really hard because your whole tempo, you used everything you had for that play, right? And it like went bad. So then it's very easy for Rogue to counterplay. But I think if Fnatic play like aggressive bot lanes and manage to punish, I think that can cause problems for Rogue for sure.
Yeah. Last topic I want to talk about with you, since you obviously played with him and he's like a friend of yours, will just be Selfmade in general, because I think most people had higher expectations than what he showed. Like people kind of expect him to be the best jungler in LEC. He was okay. He wasn't like, I still think he's top 3, or maybe top 4. I mean, I guess you could argue Elyoya played maybe a more consistent season than him. What do you think has been happening with Selfmade? Why do you think he hasn't been as dominant as he was last year?
I mean, I think last year meta like fit him perfectly, right? It was like a ton of Graves and champions like this.
I mean, he lost so many games on Graves last year. Like he was almost losing like every single game.
I mean, sure. Let me just check his. Can I check his champs list here first?
Yeah, sure. I just go for it.
I'm just trying to refresh my memory. I mean, he played a lot of Gragas, which was his best champ. Like his Gragas is like insane, right? Right, season 10. Yeah, so like the thing with Selfmade is, I think he was best last year, but I think there were. Oh yeah, sorry. That's the thing I want to say. I think last year Fnatic was better at playing around him. Like now, his bot lane is more aggressive, so he has to kind of like, it's incentivized that he plays for them, because if your bot lane is constantly winning, then like, yeah, I mean, play for them. You know, it's a kind of obvious. Last year, his bot lane was winning a lot too, but in a different way, sort of, right? Like, Reckless would always be fine, and then they could always play for his lead. They did sometimes this split too. I think there was one game where they played against Astralis, if you remember, where they played Kaiserrel against Morgana Kate, and Promiscu almost died level 1, and because of that, Selfmade Graves invaded.
Yeah, but he was like 60 CS up.
5 levels up. Yeah, exactly. Like when Selfmade is enabled like that, where he can optimize his pathing to get a huge lead for himself, he's the best jungler for sure. Like there's no denying that, you know. Also, like what you saw in the Volibear games he played, like when I remember playing with him in the past, and this guy is crazy, you know, like he's playing Trundle, like he flashes over Dragon Pit to gank, and he does the thing I've never seen anyone do. Like, you know, the Karsa level 2 Jarvan gank from lane, right?
Yep.
But did you ever see a jungler go to lane, to top lane bush, and flash from one bush to the other to gank the enemy top? That's what he did. Like that's the types of things he did, right? And his Rek'Sai, like his Rek'Sai, he had the most creative gank patterns of Rek'Sai. He'd also go full AD, so if he caught you, you were dead, you know? Like he would be like in the most creative spots, and he would always like find opportunities for him. So that's the like type he excels at. He's a bit worse at like I think like playing like Udyr, you know, and
just like full clearing.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he's good at like full clearing because
everyone is good at full
well.
clearing.
Yeah, like he's gonna full clear well, but like if he gets like a 2-level lead or 1-level lead on Udyr, he's not gonna have the same impact as he is if he's playing carries, right? Or playing a jungler that has a ton of options in ganking. So maybe it was just the meta a bit. I also feel like Lilia doesn't really fit his style, you know, when you think of him. So maybe it's like all of that combined. Like when he was playing Olaf and he would full clear into invade, into skirmish people, he was stomping, right, in ADC as well. So maybe it's a bit of the meta, like not fitting him super well, but I mean, I still think he's a very good jungler. And I think he had a lot of impact on Volibear actually, because he was finding ganks every game. Like he was getting some top lane, some spot, some like he was very active. So yeah.
I mean, I think that the interesting thing to people is like the whole idea behind this roster when they went with Niski instead of Nemesis was that they were supposed to be like even more doubling down on enabling self-made. If you think about Niski historically, he's always been somebody that plays for his jungler. Every jungler that's ever played with Niski is just like becoming like an MVP candidate instantly, right? Like
sure, but I understand the things that people don't get that sure you can have this idea when you build the roster, right? Let's say if it's right, not say if it's wrong or correct, whatever. Like there's an idea, but if the meta changes to where that's not the optimal play, then like sure you can have like a team completely built around the jungler, but if the meta shifts to Sejuani Zac, like of course your jungler will play well, but he's not gonna take over games like he like they were on what I don't know. Do you remember when Talia was like his Talia is insane, for example, right?
Yep.
Like, probably the best in the league. When he has like a lot of CC lanes and he has like freedom to do his creative pathings and look for opportunities, he's gonna look much better than when he's playing Udyr or Skarner or whatever, right? Like, that's just the nature of
exactly. I just feel like that's not necessary. I feel like the meta is wide enough where he could be going on the other side of things. Like you can play like Nidalee Graves, right? Which would I mean he was a Nidalee one trick at some point. That's what everyone always tells you about self-made. It's like, oh yeah, that's the guy that used to be Nidalee jungle one trick. He's insane on Nidalee, and for some reason it's like they never play the style of self-made on Nidalee, like playing to get him super far ahead or anything like that.
Maybe they just feel like their bot lane is like more like if they see their bot lane consistently win. Like I imagine if we see our bot lane consistently winning every game on stage 2v2, like everybody's kind of like biased towards just playing for your bot lane, you know. Like probably we can put self-made on Nidalee and play around him, but maybe they just see more success with their bot lane because their bot lane is like performing very well, right? So. Maybe it just seems easier for them because, to be fair, like their role is quite strong right now. Like the supports have a lot of CC. The AD carries can influence games, especially if they're fed. So they just probably feel like it's better to have him on full clearing. He will full clear well, and his bot lane will perform.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's a good place to end it off. Final thing, real quick. What rating would you move Upset over an 81 after his performance this split? Or is he staying at an 81 for you? Maybe 82?
No, it's not 81. Was not 81 for me. But yeah, I mean, I think that rating was a bit weird. But he's obviously he's showing he's very good. So
all right,
kind of undeniable.
Sounds good. Anything else you want to add, Thorn, before we close it out? You good?
Not really. That's fine.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, that was a long episode. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you, Crowny. For doing this episode. We'll definitely check in with you again in the future, and we'll see if the playoff predictions end the same way that we expected them to. Thanks for the episode, man. It was good as always. Peace.
Yep, thank you. Bye.